and caregivers to sign and return consent forms distributed through the schools and creches to allow for children to be immunized. It's important that we emphasize that vaccination or immunization is safe, it's free, and it's proving to prevent severe complications and disabilities associated with measles and rubella.
And finally, officials in Haiti say 9 people, including a 3-year-old child, have been kidnapped from an orphanage which cares for more than 240 children, some with disabilities. The victims were taken from the orphanage near the capital Port-au-Prince on Sunday. A local mayor said it was a planned act and the attackers broke into the building without opening fire. Gang members are thought to be responsible for the attack. No demands or ransom requests have been made. Recapping the top story, the ANC has encouraged exporters to diversify their markets, while government is working to normalize relations with the US as 30% tariffs loom for South African goods. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. It's soccer. Bafana coach Molefe Nseki says his team is in proper physical condition ahead of the African Nations Championships. They'll take on Algeria, and that's this Friday. And cricket news, South Africa's under-19s delivered a commanding performance in Harare, crushing Zimbabwe by 226 runs. Details just before 6:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. We start this traffic update with good news for Ria Vaya bus users across the city of Joburg. Ria Vaya buses reinstated this morning. They had an off day yesterday due to industrial action, but Ria Vaya in the last couple of minutes saying passengers are informed that buses are operating as normal today. They go on to apologise for the inconvenience and appreciate your patience for yesterday's disruption. If you need Ria Vaya, in all likelihood, it's going to come along pretty much normally this morning. Major story is the closure of the N3 Durban bound at Town Hill. Big truck crash, 2 trucks involved, lost load all over the roadway there. The road is closed between Peterborough and Chatterton on your way to Durban. So there's a really big sort of operation stack up there with vehicles and trucks being stacked down towards the closure of Peterborough. If you're approaching Pietermaritzburg coming in from Moy River or Howick, off-ramp at either Sadara or Hilton and hit that alternative old road into Pietermaritzburg, pop out and rejoin the N3 South the other side. And Cape Town, a busy one on the N1 inbound this morning. A crash before Kubo get a change. Also some flooding. The right lane closed at Kubo get a change. That's where the lane split anyway to the M5 South and the M1 straight through to town. So traffic coming through already fairly heavy from the Parow Goodwood side. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 8 minutes after 6 on this Tuesday, the 5th of August, 2025. Live from Auckland Park in Johannesburg, this is SAFM 104 to 107. We are leading the conversations that move us. Hey, listen, we've scanned and scoured your locality, province, country, continent and the world, and we've carefully curated those news and current affairs developments that we believe will move the needle in your world, and we've packaged them into this morning brief that we now proudly present to you. Among some of what we will tell you this morning will be this: the trade relationship between South Africa and the United States. I think there's no gainsaying that it is of utmost importance, with the United States being South Africa's second largest country trade partner. If we put aside the trading blocs such as the EU and we talk country to country, they are the second largest trade partner with up to 61.50 billion rand trade flowing between the two countries. But as you know, the relationship just got a whole lot more complicated with the introduction by the United States of a 30% tariff on most imports from South Africa. It's not all imports, but it's most of them. Two takes on that story as we start to grapple with the reality of living with these tariffs. First, we'll talk to Crispin Phiri, who speaks on behalf of the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. And we'll talk to Crispin at about 10 to 7 this morning. And we'll talk to Crispin specifically about what the plan is that was outlined by the two ministers who are at the forefront of the governmental response to the tariffs being imposed, as well as the negotiations to try and normalize relations between the two countries. So Ronald Lamula on the one hand at DIRCO, as well as Pak Stau, who is the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. They had a media briefing yesterday during which we got a glimpse of government's thinking about living with the new reality of the hefty tariffs on South African exports to the United States. And among some of the measures that they have announced will be an export help desk, a relief package for affected businesses, as well as certain exemptions from restrictions of the country's competition law that will allow companies to collaborate on export strategies. So Crispin Phiri will tell us a bit more about that at about 10 to 7. And as if then exporting goods to this all-important market, the United States, as if that needed any further complication. In the wake of the new 30% tariff that will apply to most exports to that country, now we're also dealing with a logistical spanner in the works. In a significant shake-up to the country's maritime trade, global shipping giant Maersk has announced that it is restructuring its operations, and it will see it withdraw its direct service between South Africa and the United States, as if our exports to the US could, do with more complication. The move, which is expected to take effect later this year, will leave the country with only one remaining direct US shipping line. That raises concerns, of course, about reduced connectivity, increased costs, and the potential really of delays for importers and exporters who are reliant on transatlantic, the trade routes there between the two countries. So we'll have a conversation at about 7 a.m. with Unathi Sonti, who is the executive chairperson of the Maritime Business Chamber, just about the implications of all of that. So let's shift then, and I'll tell you about another story that we'll focus on. Amid growing concern that what was once the city of gold has lost much of its luster amid seemingly uninspired and lackadaisical governance, the finance minister is turning up the heat, we are told, on Johannesburg's mayor, Dada Morero, and his administration. In a letter reportedly sent at the end of July, Enoch Godongwana lambasted Johannesburg's financial governance, pointing to the over 24 billion rand in irregular, fruitless and unauthorized expenditure in 2024 alone. He's said to have accused the mayor, Morero, of failing to act in accordance with the Municipal Finance Management Act, and has warned of possible fund withholding possibly happening should no action be taken. What action is the minister seeking to see? We are told that he wants to see a credible plan to deal with and fix Johannesburg's finances within 2 weeks, or else national intervention. So at about 7:20, we'll speak to Dr. Harlan Klute, who is a governance expert as well as a research fellow at the University of the Free State. And lastly, let me quickly flag this story. The South African Communist Party's decision to contest next year's local government elections under its own banner instead of backing the ANC as per tradition. That decision has served before the ANC's National Executive Committee. And at the end of that NEC meeting, party president Cyril Ramaphosa saying that his party acknowledges and respects the SACP's decision, but they disagree with it on the basis that it will significantly weaken those that the president calls, quote, the forces of national democratic change. So at about 7:15, we'll speak to Mbulelo Mandlana, who is the SACP's national spokesperson. So that's how we're looking over the next 3 hours. Some of the main highlights that we will cover. The full bench of the Morning Brief team is, of course, ready, able and willing to serve you with your essential updates throughout the morning. And Musa stands at the ready with your news updates. Rob Byrne confirming that he's got your traffic updates. Zaikan has your sport. Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief. And of course, as always, Ndauling Lechela watching your money matters throughout the morning. And Sipho Mantula with your Africa update at about 20 to 7 this morning. You are a part of this conversation. Do call me 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. Let's get the Tuesday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. Big stories of the day. Hashtag the Morning Brief.
Kicking us off, as always, with this briefing session, Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief. Good morning to you, Melissa. Let's start with developments coming out of Gauteng, the area of Egoruleni, the arrest of these police officers. Tell me about it.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. So 10 police officers from the South African Police Service and the MPD were arrested on Monday while on duty for alleged corruption and theft. They are accused of seizing 35,000 rand in cash and merchandise during a June 4th raid in Edenvale, but failing to property record the items. The IPID is probing the case. The officers, including 9 constables and 1 sergeant, are set to appear in Germiston Magistrate Court today to answer for their actions. So this is one that we will follow closely.
Yeah, and that interesting case, interesting in the sense of the questions of law that it's raising, but I can only imagine distressing for the family involved and for the people of Zambia. Tell me about this case now involving the late former Zambian President Edgar Lungu's family.
So the family of the late former Zambian President Edgar Lungu is still in a legal battle with the Zambian government over his burial, with the case being heard in the Pretoria High Court. Lungu died in June while in South Africa. His family is arguing that he should be treated as an ordinary citizen after losing his presidential perks in 2023, and that it would be inappropriate for the current president and political rival to preside over his funeral. The Zambian government maintains public interest should override the family's wishes. The court has reserved judgment, and it is expected to give its judgment sometime this week, before the end of the week.
And in the wake of the alleged training camps for Basotho that were said to be in South Africa and the pushback against that, there's a meeting that is at a high level between the leadership of the police in both countries?
Yes, so the National Police Commissioner General Fani Masemula led a South African delegation to Maseru on Monday for talks with Lesotho's police chief advocate Boroto Matsoso. The meeting under the NATS joint structure focused on allegations of illegal Basotho military training camps in South Africa, though initial investigations found no evidence. Senior officials from both countries' police and intelligence units were in attendance at this meeting. A joint statement outlining the findings and the next steps is expected following the discussions. So this is also another one that is quite interesting to watch and see how it develops.
And lastly, Melissa, I was talking about governance in the city of Joburg and what the finance minister wants to see. But there's also been this big project that we've been watching in Joburg, the rehabilitation of Lillian Ngoyi Street, formerly known as Bree Street. How far is that?
So the city of Joburg is reporting that there's steady progress on the 192 million rand rehabilitation of Lillian Gori Street, with 86% of phase 1 completed and on track for the end of August. Key structural work, including tunnel reinforcement and safety system installations, is nearly done. Extended work hours have minimized disruptions and accelerated the progress of this project. The project has also created jobs and supported 27 SMMEs. Phase 2, starting in September, will run until 2026, focusing on a 1.8-kilometer stretch and enhancing pedestrian and public transport infrastructure. Rolling road closures and detours will be implemented during this time to manage traffic flow throughout the city.
Melissa, thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
On the weather front, there's just one impact-based warning from the South African Weather Service, but there is, however, an advisory that I think we should highlight for you. So the warning is a yellow level 1 warning. It says damaging waves leading to localized disruption to beachfront activities. That is expected between Alexander Bay and Plettenberg Bay. Then the advisory says very cold, wet and windy conditions are expected in places over the interior of the Namakwa district in the Northern Cape and the Witzenberg municipality of the Western Cape. Then we are also told light snowfall is expected over the northern high-lying areas of the Eastern Cape. So that is the advisory. The rest of your weather, though, looks like this. Pretoria, fine with a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 23. Johannesburg, fine 6 to 21. Mbombela, fine 9 to 25. Polokwane, fine 5 to 23. Mahikeng, fine and windy 4 to 24. Bloemfontein will be fine and windy, becoming partly cloudy 6 to 22. Kimberley, fine and windy, becoming partly cloudy 7 to 23. Uppington will be fine and windy, becoming partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers 12 to 18. Cape Town will be cloudy with widespread morning rain and showers 11 to 15. George, cloudy with scattered morning rain and showers 10 to 15. Gqeberha, cloudy with afternoon and evening rain and showers 14 to 19. East London will be fine, becoming cloudy in the evening with light rain 16 to 24. Durban will be fine 12 to 27. Richards Bay fine 16 to 28. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will also be fine with a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 27.
This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All, we honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Don't miss out on the Powerball jackpot, estimated at a mind-blowing 124 million rand this Tuesday. Don't delay. Dare to dream big by playing Powerball for an estimated 124 million rand jackpot today for your chance at multi-millions. Buy your tickets now in-store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
Right, let me bring you the story now. At least 68 migrants have died after a boat carrying around 157 people capsized off the southern coast of Yemen's Abyan province in what officials describe as dangerous weather conditions. Most victims are believed to be Ethiopian nationals. The incident is the latest in a string of deadly crossings along one of the world's most perilous migration routes, according to the International Organization for Migration. Let's speak to Timothy Walker, Maritime Project Leader and Senior Researcher at the Institute for Security Studies. Timothy, good morning, and thank you for your time once again. What do we understand about the circumstances around this incident before we get into and delve deeper into that shipping route? But what do we understand about the circumstances and how this incident unfolded?
Well, good morning, and good morning to everyone listening. Yes, so unfortunately, it seems that most of the people who have been on board this vessel, approximately 157, have unfortunately died. The circumstances exactly of how they've gone into the water off the coast of Yemen is not entirely clear. Sometimes in the past, migrant boats or boats controlled by smugglers have forced people into the water before they get to shore to swim to the shore. But these boats, which are often crossing, and many boats are crossing this portion of the water between Yemen and Somaliland, Puntland, and Djibouti, are quite unseaworthy at times, and they're often overfilled. So we're talking, let's say, 150 people in a boat, which, if you were to look at it, is absolutely crammed. And the sea conditions along that part of the world are quite rough, can be very unpredictable. And this is the wrong time of year, really, to be travelling in a boat, in an open boat, propelled by just an engine as well. Sometimes sailing boats will go through the area and be able to transit with ease. But unfortunately, the unseaworthiness of the boat is probably the reason why it capsized. Is
this a major migration route by sea to try and reach shores away from Africa? You know, and I imagine in this case, reaching the Gulf states, because a lot of focus tends to be on the Mediterranean routes. But is this a major one as well?
It is. It's called the Eastern Route. It's been now known as the Eastern Route, and the two major departure points are Djibouti and Puntland in Somalia, and it's not just people leaving the African continent as well. There are many people, Ethiopian in particular, the majority, Somali too, but often a large number of nationalities. Trying to get back to Africa as well, who feel like maybe they want to return or have been encouraged to return as well. So many drownings of people often occur of people coming back to the continent as well, off Djibouti, for instance. So there are two major sort of transit points or coastal launching areas heading towards Yemen. And from Yemen, people are often unwillingly or willingly, they're in the hands of smugglers who are trying to push or facilitate their movement through Yemen into Saudi Arabia and onwards to other Gulf countries as well. The numbers are easily over 100,000 per year. It's a really major route, and like I say, because it's a bit away from the Mediterranean, obviously, and other migration routes which tend to dominate the headlines and the photos. But the photos you've seen, for instance, of the Mediterranean, of boats crowded with people, are what you see here as well. But unfortunately, the same story as well, that the inability of many coastal countries, the coastal countries here, the coast guards to save lives at sea is not through them not wanting to. It's just because these boats are used to operating clandestinely and are looking to evade, obviously, any kind of detection. But the conditions there and the number of people on board, like I say, are just overwhelming some of these boats as well, which are often just constructed almost on the shore in front of the people who are about to board them. It is a terrifying, harrowing experience, I'm sure.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights. That's Timothy Walker, Maritime Project Leader and Senior Researcher at the Institute for Security Studies.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. Let's kick off with Bafana coach Molefi Nseki believing his team is in the proper physical condition ahead of the African Nations Championship after playing 2 training matches last week. Bafana play their first game against Algeria on Friday and also have Guinea, the hosts, and Nigeria in the group. Nseki says with the number of teams, it means that almost every player will get game time.
I think going into this tournament, what is also good about us being in Group C is that we have got 5 teams. So 5 teams, you are to play 4 games. And that on its own, you periodize it according to every game you're going to play. And when you plan and play every game according to the plan, the fitness level, the tactical understanding will always improve every game you play. So we're looking forward to play the first game so that by the time we get to the last game of our group stage, that will be against Uganda, everybody will be at a higher level.
Cricket action. South Africa's under-19s delivered a commanding performance in Harare, crushing Zimbabwe by 226 runs in their latest Youth ODI Tri-Series clash, thanks to a spell from Bandile Mbata, who claimed 5 for 16 in just 7 overs. The junior Proteas piled on 304 for 6 before bundling Zimbabwe out for just 77 in under 24 overs. On to tennis action, Novak Djokovic withdrawing from this week's start of the ATP Cincinnati Masters, with the pullout coming a year to the day from his Paris Olympics gold medal. The world number 1, Jannik Sinner, who like Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz skipped the current ATP Toronto Masters in order to rest and recover from Wimbledon. He's been in Cincinnati since the weekend. And that's a wrap of the Morning Brief Sport. More top of the hour. I'm Zaikan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the ad hoc committee established to investigate allegations of national security will meet today to elect a chairperson. Parliament established the committee following allegations by the KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi that some of the most senior officials in the police service are involved in corruption. DA Member of Parliament Lisa Schickling has commended the police tactical unit for the arrest of 10 police officers at Edenvale, east of Johannesburg. They accused of corruption and theft. And the ANC has encouraged exporters to diversify their markets while government is working to normalize relations with the US as 30% tariffs loom for South African goods. The tariffs are expected to take effect on Thursday if a new trade deal is not reached. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Our top traffic story is the run into Pietermaritzburg. Durban bound this morning. The road is closed at Town Hill. Big truck crash. 2 trucks lost load. Big mess to be cleared up. Nothing getting through from Peter Brown. If you're on your way in towards Pietermaritzburg, coming from Howick or the Moy River side, just prepare to off-ramp somewhere like Sadara or Hilton. You may be taken off there by RTI. You may not. That'll have to be your own decision. If you get past Hilton, then you're in trouble as you line up amongst all the trucks and traffic waiting to get off at Peter Brown. So the N3 closed to Durban at Town Hill this morning. Johannesburg, good news for bus commuters. Ria Vaya bus reinstated this morning after yesterday's stoppage. Buses are back on the roads and operating this morning. Coming out of Soweto, delays on the N1. That's a crash by Albertina, Cecilia Road in Maritzburg. So traffic already parking back towards the N17. Also, there's a crash on the R59 north at Swartkoppies Road. If you're driving in from the Vaal, that's heavy. And big delays with queuing traffic on the N12 arriving from Protea Glen up towards the Golden Highway exit into the Eldorado Park area. That run past Asia, very heavy. Cape Town, here's the big story as well. The N1 flooding at the Kuiberg interchange. Right lane is closed. That's just by that lane sort of split section where some of the lanes veer off to the M5 south at Kuiberg. So you're already down some lanes with all that peak time traffic squeezing into probably just one to get past it. Traffic is already standing all the way back to Durban Road. It is thick and heavy. Make sure you got plenty of time to get through. Also quickly, Bishop Lavis area, 35th Avenue, Lavis Drive down. Snarling up traffic around Robert Sobukwe, Stellenbosch Arterial, top of the airport area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Good morning to you, Ndauling. So for the first update, tell me about Fitch and the rating that they've given to one of these players, these big players in the world of chips, Intel. Ndauling? All right, we'll come back to Ndauling in a moment. She's got some news to do with one of the rating agencies, Fitch, and the rating that they've given to Intel. Intel, of course, is one of the big players in as far as the world of chips and manufacture of chips is concerned. So we have Ndauling now. Ndauling, tell me about what Fitch has said in terms of the rating for Intel.
Morning to us. Now, rating agencies not convinced that Intel is on the right track, even amid its turnaround strategy. Fitch, the latest to downgrade the firm's credit rating. It's placed it just 2 notches above junk status from triple B plus to triple B. Now, the ratings agency cited increased competition and weak credit metrics as the reasons for the downgrade. According to Fitch, Intel faces challenges in maintaining demand for its products, particularly in the face of growing competition from industry peers such as NXP Semiconductors, Broadcom, and AMD. To recover its previous ratings, Intel will need to achieve stronger end markets, successful product ramps, and debt reduction over the next 12 to 14 months. Fitch noted that while Intel holds a strong market position in the provision of PCs and traditional enterprise servers, its financial structure is relatively weaker compared to its peers. The company also faces heightened execution risks, particularly in the PC market, where it is facing increased competition from Qualcomm and AMD. Now, this downgrade follows similar actions by other ratings agencies, including S&P Global, which downgraded Intel's credit rating to triple B in December, and Moody's Ratings, which downgraded its senior unsecured debt rating in August last year.
So your next story in Dowling, as you know, this is one of those where I immediately have the picture of Chris Tarrant asking me for $1 million. Who is Baidu? And I'm like, huh? By who?
Do you want to guess? Do you want to give it a go?
No, not even. Look, no, I don't want to embarrass myself. Who is Baidu? And tell me about them expanding their reach into Europe.
So Baidu is a Chinese tech firm. It's actually referred to as China's Google, right? And they're now making headway in the self-driving market, wanting a piece of that pie. There, the firm announcing plans to bring its driverless taxis to Europe next year through a partnership with ride-hailing company Lyft, which has initial deployments planned in the UK and Germany next year. The two companies aim to have thousands of autonomous vehicles across Europe in the following years, pending regulatory approval. Now, this partnership marks Baidu's continued push to expand its robo-taxis globally, following a recent deal with Uber to deploy its autonomous cars in the Middle East, Asia, and Europe. Now, Lyft's recent acquisition of Germany-based ride-hailing company FreeNow, which operates in over 150 cities across 9 countries, will likely facilitate the rollout of Baidu's robo-taxis in Europe. But it's unclear whether Lyft will offer Baidu's autonomous vehicles through the FreeNow app or a separate platform. Now, Baidu has been operating its own robo-taxi services, Apollo Go, in China since 2021, allowing users to hail driverless cars in major cities. The partnership with Lyft could boost the ride-hailing company's presence in the continent, Europe that is, where it faces stiff competition from the likes of Uber and Bolt.
You see now, my instinct was going to be to say that they possibly compete with Temu. That's why I'm glad I didn't hazard a guess. Because also on the extreme, it could have been Erica Badu. Lastly, darling, how did we close yesterday and how have we opened today in those markets that have opened?
So markets staging a recovery at the top of the week, with U.S. stocks returning to the green overnight. The Nasdaq leading the gains, closing almost 2% higher. And this comes after Palantir delivered positive earnings, boosting the tech sector. And then coming back home, markets also in the green, benefiting from the increasing gold price, which resulted in the Resources 10 complex jumping over 4% in yesterday's session, and that filtering through to the All share up 1.6%. The rand, in the meantime, kicking the day off strong, trending below the 18 rand mark. It's at 17.95 to the greenback this morning. And then oil, in the meantime, is on the back foot, losing 0.25%, trading at $67 per barrel. Lastly, in Asia, stocks mostly in positive territory amid optimism that the weak monthly U.S. jobs data that was released last Friday could lead the Fed to lower interest rates next month.
All right, Ndawling, thank you for that. We'll talk to you again in the second hour of the show. And I believe you finally have an answer for our listener about the Moroccan economy.
Yes,
all right,
we'll get into that.
We'll get into it in the second hour. Ndawling Lechela there with the first update of the morning.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. Let's start with, I watched these proceedings, the Lungu family versus the Zambian government in the High Court. And intriguingly, at the point at which I was watching, there was a gentleman. You are in that profession, but this gentleman was on his feet at the podium and arguing, but he was not wearing a gown. And I was asking myself, what is going on? He was just wearing a jacket that has, a hood. Is it hoodie? Hoodie, yeah, a hoodie of some sort. Tell me what's happening. What's the latest around that court case? And why was I seeing this gentleman arguing who was not wearing a gown?
Refreshing morning, Thulas. Indeed, Thulas, what we saw yesterday, the Deputy Judge President of Brili Dwaba was also shocked with that person inside the court. I did watch it, Thulas, also. I was following it. But I think three headlines that are leading on this story, Thulas, is the issue of that there's no proof that the late president wanted a burial in Zambia. This is coming from the family lawyer. But when you look again, there's another group of activists in South Africa where they are saying that he must be repatriated home. And at the same time, you find that there is another one that says, Thulas, which is very important from the family lawyer again, he should be treated as a commoner. Now, when you look at this judgment, Thulas, this trial, it has been since June, the passing of Edgar Lungu. Now it is almost a month now. And now it's only end of this week, Thulas, that will get the judgment after the heads of argument and debate coming from the applicants, which is the government of Zambia, Thulas, who have interdicted this burial, which was supposed to happen on the 25th of June. You will recall, Thulas, that everything was set and it had to be taken off because there was this interdict coming from the government of Zambia. These are interesting moments, Thulas, when you look also at the group from South Africa calling that he should go back home because he was implicated in corruption charges, and that's how you see it is panning out.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary case. I think it also raises issues of choice of law, which law is applicable, South African law, Zambian law. It really is complex, and I look forward to hearing and seeing how it is finally resolved. Speaking of courts of law and legal battles, those are intensifying in Yaoundé as well in Cameroon. Tell me about it ahead of the October 12 elections.
Absolutely, Thulas. The Electoral Commission is sitting with 35 appeals filed by candidates. And this one came out yesterday from the courts in Cameroon, where others they say there were scenes of political and legal drama contesting around these 35 appeals. It reminds me of our 2024 elections, Thulas, in this country. Our electoral court was so busy. So it seems that the courts in Yaoundé, they are busy also. Remember that there are many cases of Leon Onana, who's a member of the ruling party, who also filed an appeal against none other than Paul Biya. You have other ones who have come through, who was also nominated, Thulas. They are also fighting for this. We know Maurice Kamto, the leader of the opposition, has also contested his disqualification from this. And that's how, Thulas, will see how will be the stakes, because they are very high. How will the courts maneuver in dealing with these 35 appeals towards the electoral elections in Yaoundé, Cameroon on the 12th of October.
Yeah, and speaking of elections, also in October, a country that has been the model of stability in our region, in southern and eastern Africa for many, many decades. But right now it seems there are undercurrents of concern about its democratic state. Tell me about what's happening in Tanzania.
Thulas, when you have elections, you don't pass laws in the election year. Now, Tanzania, what they have done, they have passed laws early this year in February, what they call Presidential Parliamentary Councillors Elections Act. They've also come out very strict in terms of accepting observer missions. Now, you'll be shocked, Thulas. Tanzania is a member of the East Africa Community, is a member of SADC. They have excluded those observer missions, but they've only allowed the AU. AU went in June to do what we call the pre-assessment. Now, when I look at the numbers of countries they've allowed, and even Europeans to us, it will shock you that Samia Sulu is really under pressure, and it is not a shock that he did not come to the Liberation Summit to us because he's handling the issues around electioneering campaign, he's dealing with local economy, and at the same time, he's dealing with arresting the opposition. I'm not sure whether the vision of Nyerere will survive to us because the indicators are saying Chama might actually face a serious decline. It will be the same like Swapo and the same like Jesus will never come.
Wait, Sipho, what do you mean that SADC and East Africa Community election observers have been excluded? That's extraordinary. Thulas,
I am telling you what has happened is that the law says that the Electoral Commission can decide, can permit you to come in. And I know it, even in our Africa Governance Charter on the Africa Charter on Elections Democracy, it's a member state that invites you, You don't invite yourself.
Sure.
You get invitation. The same like if you have been to Zimbabwe, there were strict regulations also in Zimbabwe, whether to accept SADC or AU. But if you look at this, you ask yourself, why Samia Sulu exclude East Africa and the it might not be fake news to us. It's something that I said to you. They've passed on their law on dealing with the observer missions. But to my surprise, you have European countries who are going to be observing elections in Dar es Salaam and in Arusha.
Lastly, in your historical archive, take me to the 5th of August, 1962.
This is the main thing when the commander-in-chief of the Umkhonto weSizwe, the real MK, by the way, the Umkhonto weSizwe, when Nelson Mandela was arrested in Sedar, near a small town called Howitt in KwaZulu. And it's after he came from Morocco from a training and after attending the All Africa People's Conference. But let's connect these dots quickly to us. Who caused this arrest of Mandela? That's a CIA spy from the U.S., Donald Ricard. He served as a U.S. vice consul in Durban, and he was a CAI, the Central Intelligence Agents of the U.S. is the one who gave them information about the capture of Nelson Mandela. So you can see when we are still on their tariffs, they must account. Why were they involved in the arrest of Mandela 63 years ago? Asante sana Thulas, as we are still leading the conversation, SFM observing the Women's Month.
Sipho, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update for today.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
SA Sport Awards reflect our collective nation-building spirit. Mzansi's sport heroes and heroines have shown resilience, persistence, passion, discipline, and world-class achievements in the sports fraternity. Nominees will be announced in August. Let us celebrate #IsInJustAGame. Catch the 18th Annual SA Sport Awards on Sunday 24 August at 7:30 p.m. on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, then on SABC 1 at 8 p.m. Brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture in partnership with SASCOG and SABC Sport. Celebrating sporting excellence.
You are listening to The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So over the past few months, there have been a few shocking incidents of attempted baby abductions that are shining the spotlight on what appears to be a growing problem. Most notorious among these was the baby abduction of a days-old baby in Bellville in Cape Town in June, 2 attempted abductions at healthcare facilities in Alexandra and Kalfontein in Gauteng, also in the same month, as well as the attempt to snatch 2 babies at a hospital in Gqeberha in May. It's led to some experts linking many of the cases to unresolved psychological trauma, pregnancy loss, and intense societal pressure to become mothers. So let's take that forward. I'm joined by Simone Robinson, who is a lecturer in social work and criminology at the University of Pretoria. Good morning to you, Simone, and thank you for your time. Tell me why we're making these links. Infant abductions obviously shock the community, but how much have we been able to glean and understand from patterns of how and why this phenomenon occurs?
Good morning, Tula, and good morning to all your listeners. I think what's important to think about here is we've started to notice patterns, absolutely, and yet we need to acknowledge that every case is quite unique in terms of what the driving factors are. But some of the things we can look at is that there's often a complex emotional and psychological struggle that's happening within the perpetrators of such a crime. Sometimes they've experienced intense grief, such as miscarriage or infertility, and maybe dealing with untreated trauma or mental health issues. And in these cases, the baby actually becomes a symbolic sort of healing or restoring a lost sense of identity rather than being about malice or intent to harm.
So in many cases, we can safely say, of course, there will be those cases that are purely, where the motive is purely criminal or for human trafficking for other purposes. But are we able to say that in many of these instances, the underlying causes are more psychological than anything else?
Yes, I think what you've just done now is really important to acknowledge that there are some instances where we would find other motives. But for most of us, what we encounter is that we do see that there's some sort of psychological issue, and that there is some sort of there's sort of a need for this person to feel like this is the only option in order to sort of restore what's going on within them in terms of the emotional impact.
So what does that say then about our understandings of traumas that are, spawned by such traumatic events such as the loss of a pregnancy, a miscarriage, and other, traumas that women go through and dealing with them? How much do we understand those phenomena, and how available are structures to help women to deal with those?
Yeah, so I think what's important to understand is that these women are deeply desperate. It doesn't excuse the behavior, but it helps us understand the psychological state behind it. So these are often women who feel unseen, unsupported, lost in grief. So this act is rather tragic, not just criminal. And we can hold both truths. We must acknowledge the harm done to the biological family, the baby, and the society, but we also need to understand that for most of these people, there's a tendency to sort of sensationalize these women. But often what they need is deep psychological intervention. So we're seeing things like, we should really be asking, like, what pain got them to this point? And then we need to understand that when people feel invisible or worthless due to whether it's poverty or social isolation, they may try to find value in roles that society praises, like being a mother. And there's a huge stigma around infertility, miscarriage, or mental illness, and this can make somebody feel like they have no other path.
And have these crystallized into specific disorders that we can identify? I read somewhere about something called pseudopsychosis, delusional disorder, PTSD, and postpartum psychosis. So these are actually crystallized categories of mental health issues.
Yes, so we do find that there's sort of disorders and sort of crystallized symptoms, like you were saying, and everything you've mentioned is really accurate. What we need to also think about, though, is that these people might not actually be aware that they're suffering from this. So we find like delusional disorders, pseudopsychosis, postpartum psychosis, even borderline or histrionic personality disorders, PTSD, trauma-related disorders. These are all conditions that can lead a woman to perceive a baby not as an individual, but really as a symbolic solution to emotional distress or social crisis.
So what would or should a comprehensive societal response, governmental response, civil society response entail in responding to these patterns that we're seeing?
Yeah, so I think what we need to think about is there needs to be better tracking of live births and improved security around maternity wards and staff that are trained in recognizing psychological red flags. But prevention goes just beyond security. It's about offering emotional care at the point of loss. So not just the physical care when a woman loses a pregnancy, but also that emotional care. And then we as sort of people that interact with friends or family, we need to look out for things like withdrawal, denial of obvious realities like a pregnancy loss, obsessive behaviors around babies, sudden unexplained changes in routine. And then as a society, we really need to sort of think about the stigma we're placing on women. We sort of attribute a woman's worth to her identity as a mother or how much nurturing she can do. So when a woman does lose that, they do sort of feel like they've got nowhere else to go. There's a societal pressure to be a mother or to cope in silence, which also contributes.
All right, thank you for that. That's really insightful and educational, at least for me. That's Simone Robinson, lecturer in social work and criminology at the University of Pretoria.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Top story on the traffic desk this Tuesday, the closure of the N3 south at Town Hill. Yet another multi-truck crash, massive load on the highway. Picks up on Twitter at Traffic SA. You can just have a look at what's going on there. Trailers to be recovered, a massive lost load across all lanes on Town Hill. It is going to take a while to get this highway reopened. All closed, all lanes closed. Big backlogs halfway up the hill towards Hilton. If you're coming in from Howick or Moy River, prepare to come off at Sudara or Hilton and take that old road. That old road is busy arriving from Sudara, arriving from Hilton, but that's understandable. If you miss those exits, you'll just be sitting in a big backlog of truck and vehicular traffic down to the next exit at Peter Brown, which is some distance down the way and nothing moving. So get onto those alternative routes. If RTI are not there to take you off, just take you off yourself. New Durban side, pretty heavy again this morning. Toti through Prospecton, the M7 up towards Westwood Mall. Heavy, so you've got two queues to work through going north, and there's a backlog, probably a broken down vehicle, I would think, before Spaghetti Junction. Traffic queuing back through towards Umageda Road. Coming in from the south side of Joburg's heavy again. There's big queues on the N12 approaching Golden Highway. That's driving in from the Protea Glen side. A crash on the R59 north before Swat Copies Road. That's a delay back from Klip River Drive, and a crash on the N1 heading north out of Soweto by the Albertina Sisulu exit in Maresburg. So that's quite heavy. Major delay alert if you use the Mabopani Highway to Pretoria this morning. Traffic literally standing from Brits Road, Theo Mountains all the way down to Eskia and Pathlali. At Cape Town, pretty heavy top of the airport area. Stellenbosch Arterial Road, a crash before 35th Avenue and Robert Sobukwe, and then across that junction the lights are off on 35th Avenue at Bishop Lavis Drive. So all sorts of problems there with traffic delays. And the N1 inbound flooding at Kuburg at a change. It is a heavy run through on Route 1 this morning, backlogging to the R300. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
Right, let's get into this now. A joint media briefing between the Ministers of International Relations and Cooperation, as well as Trade, Industry and Competition, Ronald Lamola and Parkstar, were respectively giving a glimpse into government's thinking about living with the new reality of hefty tariffs on South African exports to the United States. The two ministers have announced support measures aimed at mitigating the impact of the new 30% tariff imposed by the United States on South African exports. And among those measures will be an export help desk, a relief package for affected businesses, as well as certain exemptions from the restrictions of the Competition Act that will allow companies to collaborate on export strategies. Let's speak to Crispin Piri, who speaks on behalf of the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Minister Ronald Lamola. Good morning to you, Crispin, and thank you for your time this morning. I was looking at the list of African countries and the tariffs that they faced at the first announcement of what was known as Liberation Day tariffs in April, and what they now face as the tariffs go into implementation. How come countries like Lesotho were able to negotiate their tariffs from 50% to 15%? Countries like Madagascar were able to bring it down from 47% to 15%, and we as South Africa don't seem to have made any headway in the months that were allowed for that negotiation. What's the best answer to that?
You can also look at countries like Algeria and Libya, who are actually higher than South Africa on the African continent. Or you could also look at countries like Switzerland and Canada, who have been negotiating, but seemingly also getting higher tariffs than South Africa. So it's quite clear that the way the U.S. is negotiating with countries is really something that's only known to them and how they're going about it. But we are continuing to negotiate. We maintain that our lines of communications are open with our U.S. counterparts, and our diplomatic channels have been active
Our teams are in constant contact, and we continue to re-engage with our U.S. counterparts at the earliest opportunity to do so. So we do continue engaging, but I think to compare how engagements are faring, it's really, it's how long is a piece of string, because there are a number of engagements that are happening. Some countries have concluded deals, but still have got very high tariffs.
When we say our engagements are continuing, what do we mean exactly by that? At what levels are we engaging? What meetings are scheduled? Who are we talking to? Because, I mean, part of the challenge that has been...
Negotiations by their nature are not negotiated by everyone in government. It's the trade departments. So our trade department is engaging with their counterparts in the U.S. directly. So that's at the level at which the engagements are happening. Of course, there are political consultations that the Minister of International Relations will do from time to time with various individuals who are in the political space in the U.S., in the various departments. But primarily trade discussions happen between trade departments.
Are we disadvantaged by the lack of a substantively appointed ambassador to the United States?
No, because ambassadors don't negotiate trade deals. So quite frankly, the notion that it's because we don't have an ambassador is misplaced around how trade deals are negotiated.
And tell me about your sense of whether or not the U.S. government is still willing to engage. I mean, we had a framework that we put on the table, and the last time I heard, I think I heard that there'd simply been no response to that framework. Where's that conversation now?
The response has been slow. Although there's been engagement, the response has been slow. For example, we've signed a non-disclosure agreement, which we were asked to sign. And then now, what is the next step? And the response to that has been slow. And I think it's kind of expected, given the fact that the U.S. at this moment is negotiating with the entire world almost at the same time. So there are multiple engagements happening with the same set of officials, with many various officials of the world. So I would think that there would be some drawbacks in terms of concluding deals as fast as possible, but we remain very confident that we will be able to do so. Albeit, we must also say that just the entire notion of tariffs in and of itself requires a proper discussion on its own. I see it's 7 o'clock. We'll have to take the news.
All right, Crispin, managing the time for me this morning. Thank you for that. That's Crispin Phiri, spokesperson for the International Relations and Cooperation Minister, Ronald Lamola. Let's go straight, as Crispin says, let's go straight to N. Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, ad hoc committee probing Mkwanazi's allegations to elect its chairperson and Brazil's former president under house arrest. Good morning. The ad hoc committee, established to investigate allegations of national security, will meet today to elect a chairperson. Parliament established the committee following allegations by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkwanazi, who implicated senior police officials, including the Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, in collusion with criminal syndicates compromising national security. Mchunu has since been placed on special leave. Celine Merrington reports.
Among others, the ad hoc committee will look into the alleged unlawful decision by Police Minister Senzo Mchunu to disband the political killing task team, the alleged removal of 121 dockets of the task team by Deputy SAPS Commissioner Shadrack Sabia, the 360 million rand healthcare tender awarded to murder-accused and businessman Vusi Kat Matlala's company, and the alleged interference by the Investigative Directorate against Corruption in police matters. The committee, consisting of 11 members of Parliament, have 3 months to complete its work.
DA Member of Parliament Lisa Schickling has commended the Police Tactical Unit for the arrest of 10 police officers in Edenvale, east of Johannesburg. They are accused of corruption and theft. It's alleged the officers failed to book in items that were seized during a raid in June. 6 of the arrested officers are from the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, while the other 4 are SAPS members from the Tsakane police station. Schickling says the law must be applied without fear or favour.
Among others, the ad hoc committee will look into the alleged unlawful decision by Police Minister Senzo Mchunu to disband the political killing stars team.
Apologies for the incorrect soundbite. Rea Vaya buses are back to normal operations in Johannesburg this morning. This after thousands of commuters were left stranded in Soweto yesterday due to a strike by bus operators. Thousands of commuters who rely on the bus rapid transport system were forced to find alternative transport. Yesterday morning, drivers blocked the exit point of the Rea Vaya compound, halting operations and demanding the replacement of so-called unroadworthy buses. This morning, Rea Vaya management has released a social media post confirming that buses would be operating as normal. The ANC has encouraged exporters to diversify their markets while government is working to normalize relations with the US as 30% tariffs loom for South African goods. The tariffs are expected to take effect on Thursday if a new trade deal is not reached. This came at the end of the 4-day ANC-NEC meeting in Germiston, east of Johannesburg. In his closing remarks, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa said they will continue to engage the Trump administration. He also encouraged local exporters to take advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Area and diversify their export markets.
South Africa is confronted by the immediate and damaging punitive tariffs announced by the United States. While we must act with urgency and purpose to limit the impact of these very punitive tariffs, we must also undertake measures to ensure the resilience of our economy and exports into the future. We will continue our engagements with the United States with a view of normalizing trade relations and generally strengthening bilateral relations. At the same time, we must invest in the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area and diversifying our export markets.
Further field and finally, Brazil's Supreme Court has placed the former President Jair Bolsonaro under house arrest. He's standing trial over allegations that he plotted a coup, a charge he denies. The BBC's Ione Wells has the details.
The Supreme Court judge overseeing Jair Bolsonaro's case, Alexander de Moraes, said this decision was because Mr. Bolsonaro hadn't complied with restraining orders put on him last month. He had previously been ordered to wear an ankle tag, adhere to a curfew, not use social media, and not contact his son Eduardo, who had lobbied US officials on his behalf. On Sunday, pro-Bolsonaro rallies were held in various Brazilian cities, and one of his sons briefly put his father on speakerphone to the crowd in Rio de Janeiro. He's now been put under house arrest and banned from receiving unauthorized visits and from using a mobile phone.
Recapping the top story, the ad hoc committee established to investigate allegations of national security will meet today to elect a chairperson. Parliament established the committee following allegations by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, that some of the most senior officials in the police service are involved in corruption. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musam.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Outsurance made it possible for us to travel more with the money that we save. 725. This is really real.
You are the biggest saver we've ever had.
2,794 Rand a month. It was the easiest switch ever. Get real.
How is it that Outsurance provided the solution for you?
918 Rand is what I'm saving.
Incredible. Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports Headlines, soccer action. Bafana are tipped as favourites to win the Chan Trophy. And we also bring you tennis action. Victoria Mboko, she has continued to stun, and that's at the Canadian Open Tennis Tournament. All the details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Our top story on the traffic desk, the closure of the N3 South, Durban bound at Town Hill. Yet another truck crash, and a truck crash mess to be cleared up as well. Nothing getting through into Pietermaritzburg or towards Durban beyond Peter Brown Drive. That's where the road is closed. Traffic backed heavily through to Hilton. It's a long queue of trucks and vehicular traffic stuck in this one today. If you're driving towards Durban, coming from Moy River or Howick, prepare to off-ramp at Sudara or at Hilton. If you miss those exits, then you're in big trouble, as you'll just join a non-moving queue down towards Peter Brown. You'll be stuck there for a long time. Just down into Durban, the N2 North, totally through Prospecton's busy, and then from the M7 Westwood Mall, that's quite slow. Southbound, there's a backlog as well, coming from Inanda Road, heading down towards Spaghetti Junction. Pretoria's Mopani Highway, very heavy down to Eskia and Perthlady Drive. The run from the southern side of Joburg up the R59, so coming off the Vaal, a crash at Swartkoppes Road, holding things up from Klip River Drive. A collision on the N1 North, up by Albertina, Sisulu, Maresburg, so leaving Soweto quite heavy, and quite a queue on the N12 eastbound towards the Golden Highway exit coming in from Protea Glen. Cape Town, flooding on the N1 into town at Kupo. Get a change, that's heavy from Belleville, and a crash and some faulty traffic lights backing things up on Robert Sobukwe, Stellenbosch and 35th Avenue through the Belhar and Moderdam areas. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 10 minutes after 7 on this Tuesday. It is great to be in your company. Welcome to it, the second hour of the Tuesday edition of the Morning Brief. Let's get straight to it. We start this hour with this story. And let me give credit to the reporting of News 24 on this story, as if exporting goods from this country to the United States needed any further complication in the wake of the new 30% tariff that will be applied to most exports from this country. Now a logistical spanner in the works. In a significant shake-up for the country's maritime trade, global shipping giant Maersk has announced a restructuring that will see it withdraw its direct service between South Africa and the United States. The move, expected to take effect later this year, will leave the country with only one remaining direct U.S. shipping line, raising concerns about reduced connectivity, increased costs, and potential delays for importers and exporters who are reliant on transatlantic trade routes. Let's speak to Unathi Sonti, who is Executive Chairperson of the Maritime Business Chamber. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Why is this a significant development? What are its implications given the understanding of the nature and extent of the trade relationship between South Africa and the United States?
Good morning, Mr. Thulas and the SFM listeners. You must remember, one, this is a very historic route that we are talking about. And the fact that it has, over the years, allowed, seamless weekly, connections for the South African market as well. So if then anything happens there, it is a great challenge or something that will then mean there would be some delays that the industry would face in terms of those weekly connections that they were getting from this route, where now we had both Maersk and MSC pushing this route weekly.
So in terms of the implications for exporters and the sectors that we, that are actively exporting to the United States, what are the implications? Because the way I understand it is that instead of direct transatlantic shipping, there'll be stopovers in Europe, and only from there they call it transshipping. Does that have implications for exporters in this country, and in which sectors?
All right. Yes. So indeed, now there would be those transshipments to Europe. So there are time-sensitive sectors such as the fresh fruits ones, which then they require the number of days that the vessel would have steamed to go direct to New York from South Africa. It would have at least minimized the risk of those perishable goods, those goods for the citrus community and the fruit community. So now transshipment, it means it must go to another port, and we don't know what will be the waiting period in that port, and then it then gets to the transshipment and it goes to where it's supposed to go. So there is a greater, implication in that. Remember, the fruit community here, we had issues in the past, especially with that Western, market, Western countries market, with regards to how they graded them and all of those things. So this would really now be a serious issue.
How important is it that MSC, the other major player in that sector, is talking about ramping up their own direct shipments between South Africa and the US? And how important is it that we get that right?
Look, remember, MSC is currently doing that already. They've been doing it together with Maersk. So obviously they already know. But one of the key things that we need to also look at here, we must not just look at this thing at face value. We must now remember where this Maersk, route comes from. You would note that this is part of Maersk when Maersk acquired Submarine in 1999. Maersk then began to deregister all their vessels from the South African registry, which they were submarine vessels. So, the biggest concern here is, as much as there is an agreement between MSC and Maersk, but one needs to look deep to it as to, has there been from day one some good intentions in terms of what is our goal as this big, this giant shipping company in terms of South Africa, looking at developing and growing, our shipping industry, understanding that they are also party to, Pier 2 issue with the Philippines company in KZN. So is it part of saying, because we are not happy with what has happened in the Port of Durban, this is how, we are now punishing you. So we must look at it, in all sideways, and not just about the loss in terms of what will happen now, because obviously MSC is a very big company, where and the investment in the country and the commitment we have seen. So they would be, and also it pushes South Africa as well to start now really looking at, the pushing of, our coastal shipping bill, and making sure that as a country we indeed go back to having our shipping lines.
Interesting. Thank you for that. That's Unathi Sonti, who is Executive Chairperson of the Maritime Business Chamber.
EFC is live this Thursday in the heart of Africa. Battle lines are drawn. Africa's best face Europe's elite. Vili, the White Lion van Rooyen, is now back to defend his title against Anatoly Gaffin. And Ntando, the Zulu warrior zombie, receives the challenge of the fiercer Muhammad Salohidinov. EFC 126 is live this Thursday from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Have you discovered the TV license WhatsApp yet? We see you binging reruns, living for the drama, loving the SABC Plus sports replays. Now, paying your TV license fits the vibe. Simply say hi on WhatsApp to 077 6069 060. Get your balance, make a payment, or set up a debit order, all in one chat. No queues, no please hold, just convenience that feels like it should have been here all along. Because every screen in South Africa is a stage and yours is lit. So why wait? Send hi on WhatsApp to 077 6069 060 and get your TV license sorted today. Hashtag your screen, your story.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Weekdays Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
18 minutes after 7, the South African Communist Party's decision to contest next year's local government elections under its own banner instead of backing the ANC as per tradition has served before the ANC's National Executive Committee. Addressing NEC members at the end of the marathon meeting over the weekend, the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa has said that his party acknowledges and respects the SACP's decision, but they disagree with it on the basis that it will significantly weaken those he calls, quote, the forces for national democratic change, end quote. SACP General Secretary Solima Paila has doubled down on the decision, confirming it again during the party's 104th anniversary over the weekend. Let's speak to Mbulelo Mandlana, who is the SACP's spokesperson. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. The ANC has reflected on this and they don't agree with you, but they're saying they understand and acknowledge the decision you've taken. Are we at a point where there's simply no backing away from what is a pivotal decision?
We have been in that position for a while, Thulasizwe. Good morning to you, first and foremost. We have been in that position because our members and the Congress that has the authority to take this decision has been clear on this matter, has made observations that it has qualified as sufficient to arrive at this conclusion. So indeed, there is no going back on it.
So we got a bit more, expression in terms of the frustrations of the SACP. Tell me about those that were highlighted by your General Secretary, Solima Paila, speaking in Kwadlangezwa, in particular, that have to do with policies that the government, as led by the ANC, has failed in the eyes of the SACP to champion over the last 3 decades.
Of course, there is a litany of those, but at the center of the objection of the Communist Party is the fact that the alliance itself, as a political institution, a political center from which decisions that are strategic can be made, the alliance has been made defunct. It has been replaced by a government operation system that does not take into consideration the political principles by which the transformation process must occur. So if you look at it from that standpoint, different actions of the government acting independently of the thought system and the sort of principles of the alliance has led to really a scenario where the alliance is a political system by which we make determinations about important transformation issues must be utilized. When it is not utilized and becomes essentially defunct as a strategic political avenue to determine important issues of national transformation. So that then makes the rest of the other issues about transformation become a sore thumb for the Communist Party, because the outcomes are predetermined from an alliance standpoint, and yet those determinations are put aside. Instead, the ANC acting alone through government then becomes the sole actor.
So the question that you've faced and you'll continue to face is, when you in this interview you've used the word defunct. When you can characterize the alliance as being defunct, why remain in it then?
What is defunct, Thulasizwe, is not the idea of the alliance, is not the significance of the alliance, is not the relevance of what the alliance represents and what it can potentially achieve. All those issues remain valid. But when you test them against actions of the ANC leadership through government that have isolated that avenue, it then looks defunct for practical purposes. Hence, we have said in the past that one of the important things to do in order to correct the situation is to change the manner in which the alliance functions, in which the alliance takes decisions and therefore takes those decisions into their final conclusion. We have used the word to define that the word of revising the alliance, and that is what has been our call for a long time.
You have several members of the SACP who serve in the National Executive. What's your expectation of them in line with the decision that you have taken? Do you expect them to withdraw and actually resign and not make themselves available to continue to serve in the executive under the banner of the ANC?
No. To say that we would expect them to act in that way or to move out of government and so on would be to assume that their presence there is due only to the ANC's actions and due only to the ANC's influence. That would not be correct. The campaign has been an alliance campaign. Of course, the ANC was at the forefront as an organization that will appear on the ballot. But for the duration of time, our national democracy has existed. The Communist Party has been a role player in its own name as one of the people that work in order to build our national democracy. And these comrades being in government right now is a consequence of that long legacy. To remove them now from government would be to make an incorrect concession, and an informed one indeed, that the ANC on its own is the only role player to determine the leadership core of the South African national government.
All right, I've got to thank you for that. That's Mbulelo Mandlana, who is the SACP spokesperson.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
All right, the other story that we wanted to touch on has to do with this. The Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, issuing a stern warning to the city of Johannesburg's mayor, Dada Morero, giving him 2 weeks to present a credible plan to curb wasteful and irregular spending or face national intervention. The move comes amid a growing crisis in the country's wealthiest metro, which, despite its 89 billion rand budget, is plagued by collapsing infrastructure, chronic service delivery failures, and a ballooning financial mismanagement situation. Let's speak to Dr. Harlan Klute, who joins me now to take that conversation, from the University of the Free State, governance expert and research fellow. Good morning to you, Doc, and thank you for your time. This warning of a potential for the national government to intervene if this issue of irregular, fruitless and unauthorized expenditure, how extraordinary is that in the case of a municipality the size of Johannesburg with the size of the budget that it manages?
Now, good morning to you and good morning to the listeners. It would be disastrous if the Treasury was held as funding, because the city is, according to my reading, dependent on a lot of these grants. But what the Treasury is saying is that it's like putting money into a bottomless pit, is that the city cannot be trusted with finances because it is simply heard what is being said, but it's not listening. And so this is almost a desperate attempt by the minister to force the city of Johannesburg to actually listen.
So there's an element there that talks about consequence management, which, in terms of the letter from the minister, as cited by our colleagues who've been reporting on it, that part of the problem is not just the 24 billion rand in irregular, fruitless and unauthorized expenditure in 2024. It's a lack of consequence management for that. Talk to me about that, the importance of consequence management, as well as the management of consequences by the minister and National Treasury in relation to the city's executive leadership.
Look, the Auditor General keeps pointing that out. So what the Auditor General will say is that, you need to tighten up, for example, procedures. You need to make sure that you stay within the laws, and these are the things that you need to do. Almost like a management report to saying, I've audited the city, I've looked at the process, the procedure, I've looked at the budget, I've looked at the overall governance. This is what a municipality must do. What the Auditor General says is that in South African municipalities in general, she comes back the next year and finds that those things that were pointed out have not been addressed. And that is what is meant by consequence management. There seems to be a failure. She points out, but the municipality simply sits on its hands and does nothing about it. Now, it's very difficult to explain and understand why is it that municipalities then do not act on that. What is it? What is it? Is it a lack of understanding? Is it a lack of competence? Is it a lack of not acting in the best interest of the municipality? Why is it that municipalities are not acting on this? Sometimes it can be that they don't have the capacity to act on it. Maybe the institution has become just so dysfunctional. So there's a variety of reasons. But there sometimes it's just simply a lack of political will.
Yeah. All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Dr. Harlan Klute, who is a governance expert and research fellow at the University of the Free State.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. Let's start with Bafana being tipped as favourites to win the Chan Trophy, according to Ugandan development coach Paul Mjuni, saying that the South African squad's blend of experience and youth, plus their Group C base at the Nelson Mandela Stadium in Kampala, gives them a home ground feel and fans do support them as well. Now, he did say he's the one that helped develop Fortune Makaringa, believing that Bafana's passing style as well will thrive on what he calls the best pitch in the tournament. South Africa opened their campaign against Algeria, and it's this Friday. In the meantime, Richards Bay's anticipated homecoming has been postponed due to poor pitch conditions, delaying their return to their home base. Now, they have been a nomadic team after upgrades to their Umhlatuza Sports Complex, which took more than 3 years to complete. They were due to return this weekend for their first league game against Marumo Gallants, but that game on Saturday has now been moved to Umlazi. A return back to Richards Bay after years of playing in Durban has seen coach Ronnie Gabriel predicting it could be worth an added 10 points to them this campaign.
Be a huge plus for us. Remember, we've been commuting for the last 3 or 4 seasons. We've been playing away games week in and week out. And I believe going back to our home ground, playing in front of our home supporters, it could add at least 10 points come end of the season from what we got last season. So we are hopeful that the supporters will play the role like they always do. Home ground advantage. We like to make it a slaughterhouse down there in Flatuze.
In the meantime, SABC Sport can confirm striker Peter Shalulile has received verbal offers from North Africa, the Persian Gulf and Sudan, with the stumbling block the price tag set by parent club Mamelodi Sundowns. The public broadcaster has been informed that the Namibian international does not feature in the plans for coach Miguel Cardoso, with 1 year left on his contract. On to cricket action, South Africa's under-19 delivering a commanding performance in Harare, crushing Zimbabwe by 226 runs in their latest Youth ODI Tri-Series, thanks to a fiery spell from Bandile Mbata, who claimed 5 for 16 in just 7 overs. The junior Proteas piled on 304 for 6 before bundling Zimbabwe out for just 77 in under 24 overs. And finally, tennis, Canadian teenager Victoria Mboko advancing to her first career WTO semi-final with a 6-4, 6-2 victory over Spain's Jessica Buzas-Manero at the National Bank Open. We'll serve up more sport. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, 10 members of the South African Police Service and the Kuruleni Metro Police Department are set to appear in the Germiston Magistrates Court today. They face allegations of corruption and theft stemming from an operation at a shop in Edenvale on the 4th of June. The ad hoc committee established to investigate allegations of national security will meet today to elect a chairperson. Parliament established the committee following allegations by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi that some of the most senior officials in the police service are involved in corruption. And International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola has criticized some GNU members and opposition parties for what he says is trying to score cheap political points amid the looming 30% US tariffs. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Take you down to KZN for an update on the N3 in the last few moments. They've managed to get a couple of lanes open at Town Hill. The road was completely closed and blocked and traffic stacked for a good few hours. Now, there is a major backlog of traffic to clear, primarily trucks, but there are motorists caught in this as well. The queue is right back sort of beyond the Hilton, so it is going to take a while to process and possibly some breakdowns in that as well. So if you're going from Howick or Moy River, wanting to drive into Pietermaritzburg or down to Durban, if you can delay your travel, that would be a really good call. Let that backlog clear through and then have a go a little bit later. It's significant enough to also back up the alternative routes coming off at Sadara and coming off at Hilton. Those sort of routes down to the old road are very heavily backed as well. Just down into Durban, still queues on the N2 running north up to Westwood Mall. There's also just been a crash before Gateway, so that'll be your second queue on the N2 north from Spaghetti Junction moving through to the airport. Pretty heavy around Joburg, particularly if you're coming in from the south. There's a crash on the R59 before SWAT copies. That's heavy. There's a crash on the Mike 1 going north at Melrose up by Corlett Drive. That's basically a joined-up queue right back to Gold Reef City. And also the N1 north out of Soweto stays really heavy from Diepkloof up to a crash around the Albertina Sisula Road exit. All lanes are open there, but it is taking a while to process that traffic through. Pretoria West, a crash on WFN Como in the Attridgeville area. That's why traffic going in and out of Attridgeville so heavy. Cape Town, smash on the N7 south at the N1 highway. It's a big queue running in from Dunoon through Plattekloof Road down through Bosmansdam Road. Also lights are out, Plattekloof and Kuiberg, so some additional delays out of that side of Tableview, and flooding on the N1 at the Kuiberg interchange, causing a massive delay in from Brackenfell side. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again in Dowling. In mining, tell me about earnings at Goldfields. It's looking good, isn't it?
That's right. All that glitters is really gold to
Yep.
us. The miner expecting a boost in its headline earnings for the first half of the year, with estimates suggesting a threefold increase. The surge is largely due to the record high gold prices driven by geopolitical uncertainty, including, of course, US President Trump's trade policies. Now, the company's share price jumped 5% following the trading update, which also highlighted an increase in sales volumes. Despite facing challenges such as inflation, high electricity tariffs, and logistics issues, Goldfields maintained its full-year production and cost guidance. The company's strong operational performance, particularly at one of its mines in Chile, is expected to drive further sales growth in the second half of the year. Markets, of course, welcoming the move. When the update was released earlier in the morning, it was up 5%, and then closed nearly 9% higher.
And in other earnings news now out of the financial sector, First Rand warning of lower profits. What's that about?
Now, this comes as the lender's UK motor finance unit is potentially facing an increase in provisions for missold car loans in that country. Now, the UK's Financial Conduct Authority plans to consult on a redress scheme following a Supreme Court ruling that dealers can act in their own interests without needing informed consent to charge commissions. However, the court found that in one case involving First Rand, the commission paid to the dealer was substantial, and this could potentially impact First Rand's provisions, as agreements with such high commissions represented 4% of total agreements over the past 18 years. Now, the bank initially set aside £127 million for potential costs, but may need to revise this amount. Analysts estimate an additional £40 million, that is, could be required. And if this happens, First Rand's earnings growth might trend closer to the lower end of its guidance range, or low double-digit to mid-teens growth.
Right, before we get to the markets in Dowling, about 2 weeks ago or so, you were commissioned by one of our listeners who asked that you research and investigate the economy of Morocco and its performance and what South Africa can learn from it. By your standards, by your very high standards, you took long. You took long to come back on this question. But that's because you are doing some actual work and going in depth. Tell me now, what's the answer and what are the drivers of the Moroccan economy and what can we learn from it?
I must first mention that I was assisted by the lead political economist at Oxford Economics Africa. He focuses particularly on that North African region. His name is Francois Conradi. So he mentioned that Morocco is very close to Europe, and that helps them as an exporting nation and as a tourism destination. These are two big contributors to their economy, and much of their recent growth has been based on exports of manufacturers to Europe and the US, and also tourism. Now, Conradi said that Morocco has also been good in shaping policy in pursuit of these goals by making free trade deals a priority. Morocco has free trade agreements with both the EU and the US, and is also taking infrastructure development like ports and airports seriously. Now, in terms of what SA can learn from the nation, Conradi said the importance of infrastructure and a low crime environment is at the top of the list, saying getting that right attracts investment, adding that the jobs follow the investments and then growth follows the jobs.
Dowling delivers, y'all. Dowling delivers on her promises. Lastly, then, Dowling, deliver on this promise. Tell us about how the markets are looking at this hour.
So starting in Asia, markets mostly in positive territory as risk somewhat returns to the table, and this despite the trade jitters. China's Shanghai Composite leading the gains, up over 0.7% this morning. Over in Wall Street, futures are in the green. Investors there eyeing earnings with Disney out this week. And then back at home, stocks closing positively, recovering from Friday's downbeat close. The All share up 1.6%, benefiting from a higher gold price. Sticking in the commodity scene, oil taking a dip this morning, trading at $67 per barrel. Meanwhile, in the currency markets, the rand trading stronger under that 18 rand mark. It is at 17.95 to the greenback.
All right, thank you for that. And Dowling Lichela will be back with one more update for you just after 8:30, in which update, of course, she will give you a sense of the kind of trading day you can expect in the markets today.
I was in another insurance company and I wasn't happy. One of my colleagues was also without insurance and she was happy. My niece is without insurance and she's happy. Then I just decided I wanted that happiness.
What was the real deal they could offer you?
870.
Every month?
Every month.
That's amazing. You're always getting something out.
Yeah.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. What brought you and Outsurance together?
Let me just jump on the call with them. Let me just see what's happening. He asked a lot of things about my vehicle, my sexy vehicle over here.
Ooh.
Yeah. And to my surprise, 718 Rand I ended up saving. And this awesome product called Panic Assist. 24-hour security if we need their help. Thinking I'm a father, I need to look out for my family.
Absolutely. They gave you the real deal.
It literally is the real deal.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP, TCs and information online.
What is Overtrail? Is it off the beaten path, over the edge of comfort, or the thrill of the road less taken? It's over every bridge, every obstacle, every trail, and over to that view that takes your breath away. Overtrail means going further, exploring deeper, surrounded by the comfort and sophistication of a luxury SUV. It's this spirit that inspired the Overtrail project. Experience Overtrail in the LX and GX range. Lexus. Experience amazing.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 2-liter Spar Extra Shelf Life Milk, full cream or low fat for $31.99, plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 200-gram Jacob's Cronin coffee jar, or 230-gram refill for $144.99, plus 300 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Prices valid until 24 August 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Don't miss out on the Powerball jackpot, estimated at a mind-blowing 124 million Rand this Tuesday. Don't delay. Dare to dream big by playing Powerball for the estimated 124 million Rand jackpot today for your chance at multi-millions. Buy your tickets now in-store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusher, Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Straight to your calls. Let me go straight to Loressa in Tshwane. Good morning to you, Loressa.
Good morning, Putilas. How are you?
Very well. How are you? You want to reflect on that conversation we had earlier on about infant abductions in the country?
Absolutely. Putilas, my name is Raita. I run an organization that focuses on women who lost children in infancy. And I'm speaking from experience to say the current situation, particularly in government hospital, is once a woman loses a child, it's sort of, oh, sorry, go home. And there is absolutely no psychological help. Wow. So what happens is these women, including myself, leave the hospital with absolutely no support for psychological effect. You can imagine, obviously, I think the professor touched a lot on the effects that can have on one. But you're also looking at things like suicide, and you're looking at substance abuse that became a huge concern for me. And I started this organization, and I think when I started it, we thought it's a minor thing. We actually did end up getting assistance from the president's office to give us permission to go into hospitals and try and get our model running. We are over-capacitated in a sense that there are so many women who need help, and we just don't have the capacity to help. So we have had to re-look at the model and say, how can we create a system where these women are able to help each other? In a sense of training women and then putting them out in the community. And when a woman, for instance, loses a child in that specific community, can go into Akhanang and get assistance. Because as you know, our health system is at the verge of collapse, and they honestly do not have the capacity to take on something like this.
Yeah, it sounds to me, Loressa, like it sounds to me like a lonely road, right? When a woman is pregnant, there's that sense of, you know, I don't know, the people around the woman being happy and excited, but when something happens, like a pregnancy loss, I don't know, it just sounds like it becomes a lonely road, and people will say, condolences and we're sorry for your loss, but beyond that, nothing else happens. Is it an understated issue in our society?
It's massive. You have no idea, Putilas. The women I met, including myself, the thing is, nobody knows how to deal with grief. You know, it's like you're saying, it's condolences, and we sort of want to move away from it and hope you move on with your life. But you are now left with the psychological scars, and these can happen from women as young as 16 who lose children in infancy and have no some sort of support. So my plea is for anybody who's in government who can assist us to please get help and get this model running. You know, we start from the basis of even mere understanding what grief is and the 7 steps of grief, and understanding why you feel something and how to go through it. And if you're ever having any difficulty, where to go. I can tell you one of the things that we offer is a portal where we can offer things like contacts for mortuaries and tombstones and all those things. All those things you are now left to deal with, and nobody gives you information. Nobody assists you with that. So
Loressa, thank you for that.
It's quite devastating.
Thank you for that. It's been quite educational for me, I must say, this morning. That's Loressa in Tshwane. Let me go to Khotso in Maluti Pofung. Good morning to you, Khotso. No. Let me do it properly for you. Goeiemorgen, Khotso, and who handed?
Let's take my brew in order for me to save my time.
Yes.
Tonight, the statement issued by Enoch Kodongwana, it makes my heart bleeding when I see the status of municipality, Joburg municipality, under Dadamorer. But this thing, I repeat it again for the second time to you. If Cyril Ramaphosa was a real man and powerful president, Cyril Ramaphosa has a constitutional power to remove Dadamorer and Panyaza Lusufi with immediate effect in Joburg. And also, he must apply the COPTA department, department to dissolve Joburg. Why I say so, Thulasizwe Simelane?
Yes.
Joburg municipality has turned to be the ATM of the foreigners. A simple example. Which criteria ANC followed to
Oh, Khotso, your line is letting us down now. Khotso? No, we have lost the line to Khotso there. But I do think that we had gotten enough of the point that he was making about the need for decisive steps, particularly at the highest levels of the executive, including the president, intervening in cities like the city of Johannesburg. Let me take Bajo in Soweto. Good morning to you, Bajo.
Hi, Thulasizwe, how are you?
Very well, how are you? Please go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to talk about tariffs, but before I do that,
yes,
I wanted to address something that I heard in the morning about when Sipho Mantula said the real MK. Yeah, I honestly think we cannot have such journalism or such reporting because with the mere fact of saying that he's being objective and being biased. So we cannot have. I'm not a supporter of MK.
I missed that,
yeah?
Bajo. And in what context was he talking about? Was he talking about the Chama Pindudzi not attending the Liberation Party's summit that was happening recently?
Yeah, he was referring to MK, and then he said the real MK. Yeah, when he gave his report.
Yeah, I missed that.
Yeah, we can't have such reporting. If he wants to politic, and he must enter the political terrain, and then let's get down to it.
Well, if I can quickly respond to that, Bajo, Sipho Mantula is not a reporter in your traditional sense, and is in news gathering and giving you the 5 W's and an H. He is also an opinion maker. You are at large to disagree with him. To engage with him, you are at large to do that. But you can't have the same. You can't have the same. Let me just finish the point very quickly. You can't have the same expectations of a Sipho Mantula as you would have of a Griselda Lewis, for example, at the SABC. I'm just making that distinction. That he's an opinion maker, and he's fine with you engaging with him and disagreeing with him. He's okay with that. It's totally fine.
Yes, absolutely. When he gives his opinion, he has the time to give it. I think on SABC they allow him space. But when he comes here on radio to give us his Africa report, it does not come here to give us his opinion.
It is peppered with some opinion, but it's fine, Bajo. Go to your issue about tariffs
but I
before
just needed to respond to this.
Yes.
Needed to allow me to respond. That
yes.
Sipho Mantula mustn't enter into that political.
I hear you. That's okay.
And in any event, if he wants us to go there, we'll go there. In any event, Chula says I wanted to talk about tariffs.
I've heard that point. Yes, please go ahead.
And the tariffs, Chula says. Well, if America wants to imply or impose their tariffs, they've done that the world over. So I think the South African government, leaderless as we are, we may as well find other avenues to explore and other markets to take our business to. But it has hit the Afrikaner community much harder because they were the ones who are portraying South Africa in a very bad image. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for that. I appreciate that engagement. I tell you what, I'm a bit late. Let me go straight to the traffic. Bonagele and Temba, if you don't mind, can I call you back and then we pick up the conversation a bit later on?
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just a reminder, the N3 has been reopened with a couple of lanes at Town Hill in Pietermaritzburg on your way to Durban. An overnight closure there, or early morning closure at least, due to a truck crash scene. It's still very much an active scene, but there is some traffic able to flow past. But the net result is a monumental backlog of traffic almost to Merivale, bottom of Howick. So if you're coming from Moy River or Howick into Pietermaritzburg or wanting to get through to Durban, if you can possibly delay your arrival into that area, that'd be a really good call. There's just thousands of trucks and motorists caught in this big queue of traffic moving down and eventually passing the scene. It's so significant, the backlog, that routes that come off at Sadara and off at Hilton are really heavily jammed down to the old road as well. There's all sorts of congestion south of Howick on your way to Durban. So if you're in the middle of it, that's the heads up. If you're wanting to leave and get down that way, do it as late as you possibly can. Just down into Durban, while we're in KZN, a stationary vehicle before Spaghetti Junction that we alluded to earlier this morning. So traffic coming through from Inanda roadside, very heavy today. Joburg crash on the M1 North at Maresburg earlier this morning. Still backing traffic leaving Soweto on your way towards Randburg. Crash on the Mike 1 North at Corlett Drive in the Melrose area. That's adjoining joined up queue. No gaps this morning from Boysons right through to Melrose on your way to Sandton, and that crash on the R59 before Clip River, or before Swartcopies Road, still holding traffic coming up from Clip River Drive. Broken down vehicle R21 towards the Pomona Road exit, some roadworks there as well. That's southbound, that is airport bound this morning, that is being backlogged. And Cape Town, a really heavy, wet and slippery and pretty dangerous Tuesday morning. Surface water and flooding all over the show after heavy rains. The big flooding is the N1 inbound at Kubo Interchange. Traffic's heavy from Kraaifontein. You'll need plenty of time to get through that. The other big one this morning is the N7 South, a crash at the N1. That's a queue that's almost pushing back towards Dunoon. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This July, journey beyond the horizon with Chasing the Sun. 5 mesmerizing episodes every Sunday at 7:30 on SABC2 from 13 July to 10 August. Feel the thrill of the adventure, the power of discovery, and stories that light up the skies. Missed an episode? No worries. Stream anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. No subscription required. Chasing the Sun. Your Sunday nights just got brighter. Tune in to SABC2, Sundays at 7:30, or watch on SABC Plus on demand.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
6 minutes to 8. In a landmark judgment, the Constitutional Court has ruled that the appointments of 5 commissioners to the Commission for Gender Equality are invalid due to Parliament's failure to ensure adequate public participation in the selection process. The decision follows a challenge by Corruption Watch, highlighting critical constitutional issues surrounding transparency and accountability in appointments to public institutions. Let's speak to Nkululeko Kongo, who is an attorney at Corruption Watch. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. I read the judgment, and I must say up front that I found it extraordinary that there was even an attempt to justify what was passed off as public consultation. Tell me what the process to appoint these commissioners stood and fell on in terms of those principles of public consultation in decision-making such as this.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. In essence, the court made 3 findings, and the first is that there isn't sufficient information given to the public to allow them to participate meaningfully in the process. In that sense, the Parliament or the specific committee, the Portfolio Committee on Women, had published redacted information about the candidates. Instead of publishing the full CVs with the redacted information, what they did was they published the names of the candidates and their qualifications. And so it didn't allow people to have an adequate assessment of the candidates and their suitability to be commissioners in the CGE. Then the next thing that happened was that the period for May was limited to 2 weeks. So there was also not enough time, coupled with this very limited information, able to give feedback and to provide one's input. Then the last thing that was also noted was that there was a character limitation of 2,000 characters on an online form. And that would have amounted to about 500 words. So it also limited what you could say. It limited the participation of people who don't have ready access to data.
Yeah. We don't have the greatest of lines, but let me pick up on one of those themes and why I said I found it extraordinary. The issue around the Personal Information Protection of Personal Information Act comes up from time to time. We saw it recently with the higher education, now former minister, when she was being asked about the profiles of the people that were being appointed, and she was citing that and saying, no, POPIA doesn't allow me to just willy-nilly name people. This judgment goes to talk about that. Just say a bit more about that. What principle does it clarify about what the public is entitled to know in a public process that may turn out to be personal information?
So what the court does is it, with the help of the information regulator, it establishes a principle that there's a need for the public to have enough information to be a co-decision maker or to be more involved in the process of making the decision for appointment. And this requires that the public have adequate access to the information. And in this case, the Parliament's reasoning was that POPI wouldn't allow them to share the information. But the court said you need to know about the candidate's experience. You need to know what other things that they've done and not just rely on their qualifications. And for the processing of information, there is an exception in POPIA that says that where processing is necessary for the proper performance of a public duty by a public body. And this falls within that very class of exceptions where one can still process information. So that's what the court noted. And then the other thing that the court does say is that where someone applies for a public role such as this, there could be an implicit consent by them for that personal information to be processed because they're aware of the role and they're aware that there needs to be knowledge by people of their qualifications and experience, etc.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for your time this morning and for outlining that for us. That's Nkululeko Chongo, who is an attorney at Corruption Watch. Look out for that judgment and read it for yourself. Basically, what I took from it is that this excuse, whenever people are asked to tell us a bit more about this candidate, share their CV with us. Oh no, personal information, POPIA doesn't allow. We need to be scrutinizing that. And I think it puts paid to it, as Nkululeko was explaining, that other than redacting the personal information, such as cell phone numbers, ID numbers, and the likes, there's really isn't anything that stops those people, those decision makers, particularly in Parliament and the executive, from letting us know the full CV of the person that you are looking to hire and employ into those panels and other positions of public influence. So don't take that excuse that says POPIA this, POPIA that. At 8 a.m., let's check in with N. Musa now.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 0800 60,000 today.
In our top stories, 10 police officers set to appear in the Germiston Magistrates Court and ad hoc committee probing Mkwenazi's allegations to elect a chairperson. Good morning. 10 members of the South African Police Service and the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department are set to appear in the Germiston Magistrates Court today. They face allegations of corruption and theft stemming from an operation at a shop in Edenvale on the 4th of June. According to reports, the officers allegedly seized cigarettes, took 30,000 Rand in cash and 3 packs of Panados worth 30,000 Rand during the raid. Independent Police Investigative Directorate spokesperson Lizzie Shuping says the officers were arrested for trading in illicit cigarettes and violating immigration rules.
It is also alleged that the accused officers failed to record all the merchandise seized from the shop at the police station. The shop manager allegedly disputed the quantity and type of merchandise booked in the occurrence book to the station commander. The members were arrested while on duty and will appear before court. All arrested officers are constables and 1 sergeant and are detained at the Germiston police station.
Meanwhile, DA Member of Parliament Lisa Schickling has welcomed the arrest of the 10 police officers. She says the law must be applied without fear or favour and there must be accountability at every level of government.
It is deeply disturbing that those entrusted with upholding the law allegedly chose to break it, confiscating 150,000 rands worth of cigarettes, stealing 35,000 rand in cash, and even taking packs of Panado worth nearly 5,000 rand. These officers reportedly manipulated evidence, booking in only the cheap items while pocketing the rest. This is exactly why the DA continues to call for urgent reforms in policing, transparency in the SAPS, and accountability at every level of government.
The ad hoc committee established to investigate allegations of national security will meet today to elect a chairperson. Parliament established the committee following allegations by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, who implicated senior police officials, including the Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, in collusion with criminal syndicates compromising national security. Mchunu has been placed on special leave. Celine Merrington reports.
Among others, the ad hoc committee will look into the alleged unlawful decision by Police Minister Senzo Mchunu to disband the political killing task team, the alleged removal of 121 dockets of the task team by Deputy SAPS Commissioner Shadrack Sabia, the 360 million rand healthcare tender awarded to murder-accused and businessman Vusi Kat Matlala's company, and the alleged interference by the Investigative Directorate Against Corruption in police matters. The committee, consisting of 11 members of parliament, have 3 months to complete its work.
The trial of the 6 men accused of the murder of 18 people at Ngobazana village in Lusikisiki last year has been adjourned to tomorrow by the Mthatha High Court sitting in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape. The court has been dealing with the matter that relates to the killing of an ANC politician, Ngeti Sikijana, in August last year. It's alleged the firearms that were used to kill Gijana were positively linked to the killing of the 18 people. Ngabisi Nina reports.
The state called a second witness, a police officer who attended the scene following Gijana's shooting. He told the court that on his arrival at the house he saw about 5 cartridges and 8 bullet holes on the walls. He testified that there was a lot of blood in the room where Gijana's body was found lying on the floor. The court has been adjourned until Wednesday, as one of the legal representatives won't be available on Tuesday. The trial will resume on Wednesday with the focus on the mass murder of 18 people.
And finally, International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola has criticized some GNU members and opposition parties for what he says is trying to score cheap political points amid the looming 30% US tariffs. The tariffs threaten thousands of jobs in industries like agriculture and car manufacturing. Lamola was addressing a joint media briefing in Pretoria with the Department of Trade and Industry. He says government is working on ways to mitigate job losses.
There are players who have undermined our efforts. Our view is that all of us as South Africans, irrespective of our political affiliations, whether you're an opposition, NGO, business, or in government, GNU, partner, or anything, once you get out of South Africa, we all have a responsibility to promote the national interest of South Africa in a positive way, particularly when stakes are high, like now, during these complex negotiations with the US. It's on the basis of the understanding of what is at stake: jobs, livelihoods, and the economy. And our focus is to preserve that.
Recapping the top story, 10 members of the South African Police Service and the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department are set to appear in the Germiston Magistrates Court today. They face allegations of corruption and theft stemming from an operation at a shop in Edenvale on the 4th of June. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Breaking news just in. Pinky, a 60-year-old woman, slashed 870 Rand a month off her car insurance premium. That's right. Pinky switched to Outsurance and now saves a mind-blowing 870 Rand a month on her 2020 Kia Seltos 1.6. Outsurance clients always get something out. Get a quote today and see how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 08 600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's soccer news. Oswin Apollos igniting Orlando Pirates' new era under the new coach. And we also bring you cricket. India edging England by 6 runs in a thriller at the Oval. We'll find out more just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Still very heavy backlogs on the run to Pietermaritzburg coming in from Mooi River or the Howick side. It's the earlier truck crash on Town Hill. Authorities have managed to open some lanes, but it's still very much an active scene on the left, plus a big backlog of truck and vehicular traffic to queue through there or to clear through there to come off the queues. Backlogs almost to Sadara. That's how heavy it is. The alternative routes, like if you're exiting at Sadara or Hilton down to the old road, they're pretty heavily jammed as well. So big traffic between Howick and Pietermaritzburg. On your way to Durban, the advice is to travel later if that is at all possible to avoid a really monumental traffic situation. Joburg today, crash, Mike 1 North at Corlett Drive. Traffic coming through from Boyson's, heavy all the way up in towards that Santon area. N1 North, a collision at Albertina Sisulu in the Maresburg area has been cleared, but the run out of Soweto just remains pretty heavy. And that crash on the R59 North at Swartkoppies Road still causing problems as well. Cape Town, crash N7 South before you get to the N1 highway. That's really heavy today. Traffic parking back almost to Dunoon. A crash on the M1 inbound at Belleville Road. That's a delay from Kraaifontein, and then flooding at the Kuiberg interchange means once you get past that crash at Belleville, you stay in heavy traffic on your way into town. A lot of flooding across Cape Town as well. Multiple routes being held up by that, and no traffic lights causing chaos around Robert Sobukwe, Stellenbosch Arterial Junction in the Modderdam area. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8 on this Tuesday. It is great to be in your company. I want to just highlight one more thought on that judgment that I was discussing with Nkululeko Kongo from Corruption Watch in the last hour. We must get to a point where what passes off as public participation for purposes of these public processes like the processes in Parliament is settled law, where we don't have to debate how many cases, how many times does the Constitutional Court have to tell parliamentarians what is public participation and what does that reveal about them and how seriously they take you as the public when, you know, the same principles keep having to be emphasized again. And I feel strongly about this point because when I read that judgment, 2,000 characters, you are given 2,000 characters, which amounts to about 500 words, to make your point about the suitability of one candidate or another for the Commission for Gender Equality. 500 words. What if you actually have serious objections about this particular person? Then they turn around and tell you that actually much of it was happening online. So if you don't have access to the online platform, what happens then? And the number of days, 14 days. That in addition with this obfuscation that always says, pop here, I can't show you the CV. Really, we need to get to a point where we are really serious. There are encouraging signs with the 7th Parliament, and I think we should not accept anything less going forward. Public participation is exactly that, and it's meant to enhance the decision making. Let's settle this once and for all now. Let's not come back to this again. Let me read one or two of the messages that have come through. Someone says, can you please check corruption on land reform? Mantsose land claim in Madibeng. Someone hid our title deed due to selling our land and taking our money from the mines. So that's one situation that they are saying is playing out in Madibeng. It's a bit difficult to do a full-on investigative story with a live show, but thank you for that pointer, and our colleagues at SABC News can hopefully pick up on it, and to the best of our ability we can line up one or two conversations about it. But it does feel to me like it's one for a reporting team getting on the ground and doing that essential reporting. Then someone else here says, my regards, with regard to the political party that can't manage itself. With regard to the political party that can't manage itself, iyohlangana kwi-ballot paper, Woza 2026 and 2029. History will be made, says Yazonda in Soweto, who says, with regard to that political party that can't manage itself, not naming the political party, says, see you at the ballot in 2026 and 2029, where history will be made. And then lastly, let me read this one. Someone says, some of the things the US is complaining about, its BEE policy. I think as South African citizens, we need to be honest and have serious conversations about this policy. How many people benefit from this policy, and does the majority of South African citizens support this policy, says one person. So do keep it going. I'd love to hear from you. The number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107, and I'll do that in just a moment.
This July, journey beyond the horizon with Chasing the Sun. 5 mesmerizing episodes every Sunday at 7:30 on SABC2 from 13 July to 10 August. Feel the thrill of the adventure, the power of discovery, and stories that light up the skies. Missed an episode? No worries. Stream anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. No subscription required. Chasing the Sun. Your Sunday nights just got brighter. Tune in to SABC2, Sundays at 7:30, or watch on SABC Plus on demand.
For the love of the game.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195, and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Don't miss out on the Powerball jackpot, estimated at a mind-blowing 124 million rand this Tuesday. Don't delay. Dare to dream big by playing Powerball for the estimated 124 million rand jackpot today for your chance at multi-millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial star 120 star 7529 hash for USSD. Panda, Pusha, Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, I must say, part of what I enjoy with this conversation that you and I have daily, and I think I've said it many times, I'm going to stop, I promise, is just this never being able to predict in which direction you will pull me, in which direction the conversation will go. Few minutes ago, we had a caller coming through who was talking about Sipho Mantula and reflecting on the Africa update and comments that he says Sipho made about, quote-unquote, the real MK. I must say I missed that comment, but I did engage that caller. So a few of you now wanting to engage on that. Let me take one or two voice notes and then go to Pumzile, who also wants to weigh in on that.
Good morning, Thulas and the team. Good show as always. Just to give context on Sipho Mantula's comment, he was referring to Commander-in-Chief Nelson Mandela, the commander of the MK. He referred Nelson Mandela as the real MK. So I think that's the context the caller was calling about. Thank you. I hope I made a good contribution. BK.
Yeah, you absolutely did. I missed that particular word, that phrase, real MK.
Good morning, Thulas. The caller who's catching feelings on Sipho Mantula speaking of the real MK, I don't think he's justified. We have the MK that we know, Umkhondo Wesizwe of the old, which Umantula was referring to when he was speaking about the CIC, which was or is Nelson Mandela. So we need to make a difference between that and the now MK of Jacob Zuma.
Yeah, and it was the subject of much debate and litigation, wasn't it? That whole name, the use of Umkhonto Wesizwe, given its historical context. Phumzile in the Eastern Cape, good morning to you.
Good morning to you. How are you?
Very well, how are you?
Great. Good morning to the listeners as well. It's been a while to us. And listen, I wanted to talk about a different subject, but I got actually tempted to firstly respond on the MK part. Advocate Mantulo correctly so reflected the real, no, he said so, the real MK, the real Umkhonto Wesizwe. There is nothing wrong in saying so. Because, look, he could have even said they tried and tested Umkhonto Wesizwe, led by its commander, Dr. Nelson Mandela. There's nothing wrong in that, because we all know the actual MK is a fake. It's a fake led by a cult, right? He's stolen, in fact, the name opportunistically so to suit his own interests, so to speak, on his cultism, right? So there's nothing wrong. We must defend Sipho Mantula. He said nothing wrong. But quickly to us. Yesterday, I heard a DA person in Joburg saying under the DA, there will never be a target of 7,000 rand for traffic officers to find people, this and that and that and that. It's totally disingenuous. In Kocha, where I reside, currently we have about 11 traffic officers appointed by the ANC then on contract basis. Can you believe me now as we speak? Under the DA, most of those what you call traffic officers are still on contract. Secondly, they're given a target of 60 fines a month by the DA. That's a target. So he must not come on this platform and mislead the people of this country. So it's not holding water. That's all I can say.
Phumzile, thank you for that. So just pointing out two inconsistencies about what the DA says. I don't think I caught that conversation as well. So I'll have to take your word for it, Phumzile. Thank you for that. Themba in Gqeberha, good morning. You want to talk about the South African Communist Party? Hold on for me a second. Sorry, take it again, Themba. Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Thank you very much, Thulasizwe. I'm not asking you how are you. I know you are good.
Yes.
Look, this thing, let's start here. This thing of targets, whether fines or in value, rand value, it's illegal. I always like to venture into legalities. It's illegal, but it's for another day. Thulasizwe, I know you've heard of this slogan or principle, forward ever, backward never.
Yes.
That slogan or principle was abandoned in the 70s leading to the 80s because it was seen and understood to be limiting in terms of the capacity of cadres to carry out the struggle or missions, as it were.
Yes.
This thing of us being fixated no matter what the costs are. Now, this fits very well to Communist Party today. Again, let me remind you of something. You've heard of leaders by accident of history. This is where we find ourselves as across the revolutionary movement, Communist Party, ANC included. That the leaders that we have today are failing to do one thing and one thing only, to understand the obtaining material conditions. The resource distribution and ownership by community or society, that resource has to be available. It has to be quantifiable. It has to be sellable. or put into the market. Now, Communist Party fails just to understand that South Africa as an island cannot be able to venture or move into that state.
Yeah.
Not today, because the South African society is much more developed.
All right.
And the resources that we have cannot feed us or satisfy our needs.
Gotcha.
We require resources across from other countries.
All right, Themba, thank you.
What Communist Party needs to do, needs to organize and mobilize communist parties of the world and workers of the world.
Yeah, all right.
To ensure
I've
that
gotta move on.
societies across the world are ready.
All right, Themba, thank you for that. That's Themba in Gqeberha. I've got to move on and stick with that theme and speak to Bonagele in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Bonagele.
Airport. Hello.
Hi Bonagele. Awuzuyeka uzenza ntoni? Thetha mhlekazi sikumamele. Intoni le ungazukuyiyeka? Awuzukuyiyeka uzenza ntoni?
At least I wasn't specific. No, I was
danger.
As you know, I'm driving, my friend.
Watch yourself. Watch yourself.
Listen,
go ahead.
Actually,
please.
I want to talk about the Solomon Parliament.
Yes.
You know, I'm not sure if whether that guy is trying to confuse South Africans or what's going on in his mind. You know, for him to say he's not trying to divide the alliance, do you really believe him by saying what he said?
Hey, I don't know. Hey, Bonagele, it's not for me to believe.
And the other thing, before I forget, this guy seems to be in everybody's lips. You understand? Umkhwanazi, the commissioner, he was a KZN. Even himself, Mapila talked about him. You know, perhaps those guys, they want him to join their party, so to speak. The one and only person who was so specific to say is Julius Malema, you understand?
Yeah.
So I applaud him for saying that, you know. But of course, doing a good job away with corruption, we need people such as him, you understand?
Yeah.
But those who want to join their parties, I don't know, understand.
Yeah.
Perhaps he will make up his mind. Of course, my organization, I'm not sure whether they're going to do away with him or not.
Who's this
Do
now?
you think
The provincial commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi?
Yeah, Umkhwanazi, yeah. He seems to be in everybody's lips. You understand? These days. And abantu abaninzi bafuna the parties zabo. Anyway, have a nice one to us.
You too. Thank you, Bonagele. I think the only person I've heard directly trying to say is to suggest that if you want a political home was Julius Malema. That's the one person I've heard. I don't know if other parties are courting him to see if he can join into politics. The way I understand him, he has said that he's a crime fighter. Not just a police officer. He says he wants to be where the action is, and therefore he's even shunned a pathway, a career pathway that would have led to the detective services. And when people were saying he must become the next Hawk's Head, that was his answer to say, I have no interest because I want to be where the action is. I'm a quote-unquote crime fighter. So now I wonder if there would be space for that within politics, for the kind of action that he wants to be at the heart of, I wonder. Magdalene in Bloemfontein, good morning.
Morning, Thulasizwe and the listeners. Thulasizwe, I think we are all aware that there's no stability in South Africa. Not at all economically and socially. You know, 2 weeks back, I was in America. So I saw a harmony where I was in Florida. There is a stability and harmony because the law is in order. So South Africa will never experience that as long as we are still under the government of ANC. I'm going to say it. Because all of this instability and chaos started immediately after ANC took over. So now we are dealing with corrupt leadership. Masatile is here today in Bloemfontein. What is he coming to do? Is he going to bring employment in Bloemfontein? No. Is he coming to check on his people who are his elite, who are taking tenders from the government? Is he going to come to see how far are they bringing money into his pocket?
Yeah.
Because now all of a sudden we hear allegations
Yeah.
on him.
Yeah.
So what is it that we are, South
right.
Africans, we need to come together.
Yeah.
We need to come together, black, white, and colored, and say we are going to elect our own president.
Yeah.
No more the ANC president.
Gotcha.
Please.
Magdalene, thank you for that. The trust deficit that keeps coming through in terms of the leadership of the country, and in particular, you hear it from time to time expressed in the form that Magdalene has expressed it, directed particularly at the ANC.
This July, journey beyond the horizon with Chasing the Sun. 5 mesmerizing episodes every Sunday at 7:30 on SABC2 from 13 July to 10 August. Feel the thrill of the adventure, the power of discovery, and stories that light up the skies. Missed an episode? No worries. Stream anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. No subscription required. Chasing the Sun. Your Sunday nights just got brighter. Tune in to SABC2, Sundays at 7:30, or watch on SABC Plus on demand.
For the love of the game.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Shane Manzai, let me ngizama, I'm ngiyakuzama,
Yes, Thulas.
Talk to me. How do I say the name of the new coach at Orlando Pirates? Wado. Is it?
Wado.
Wado.
Yeah.
Like Wagadugu.
Wagadugu.
It's spelled differently, but it said Wado.
Wado.
So a new era there at Pirates, yeah?
I know. I mean, what could this mean for people like, the Buccaneers fans?
Yeah.
What do we even have to worry about? We'll have to ask this man Wadu himself, because there's a new coach and Pirates has a bit of a new groove, because they are looking at Osborne Apollos to become a game changer. Apollos impressing in the MTN 8 quarterfinal win over Polokwane City, showcasing pace and creativity. Now Wadu, who once coached against him, now plans to refine the 23-year-old's tactical discipline, and that will be through targeted workshops and drills. Apollos could soon be pushing for national team honours ahead of AFCON 2025. In the meantime, Bafana are being tipped as favourites to win the Chan Trophy, according to Ugandan development coach Paul Mjuni. He says the South African squad's blend of experience and youth, plus their group base at the Nelson Mandela Stadium in Kampala, gives them a home ground feel. We've also got South Africa opening their campaign against Algeria, and it's all happening this Friday. Cricket, India edging England by 6 runs in a thriller at the Oval to level the Anderson Tendulkar Trophy 2-2. Mohammad Siraj was the hero, taking 5 for 104, including a match-winning Yorker to seal India's narrowest ever Test victory. Under new skipper Shubman Gill, the young side defied odds as England threatened to chase down 374. India now sit third on the World Test Championship table. Here's India skipper Shubman Gill.
In my opinion, it is the most rewarding and satisfying format. You work the hardest to be able to get a win. And the best thing about this format is it always gives you a second chance, which none of the other formats give. So if you keep working hard, if you keep doing the right things, there is always a second chance. So in my opinion, this is the most rewarding and satisfying format. I don't think there should be any changes made to this format.
And finally, Christian Coleman defending fellow sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson after she was reportedly arrested for pushing him. The reigning 100-meter world champion Richardson was arrested for domestic violence at a Seattle airport. Now, according to a police report, the 25-year-old who won silver at the 100 meters at the Paris Games allegedly pushed Coleman, who then fell into a nearby column after an argument. Yes, Christian Coleman.
You know, people have discussions and emotions and stuff like that. And she has like things that she needs to work on for herself, of course. And so do I, so do you, like everybody. And I'm the type of guy, like, I'm in the business of just like extending grace and mercy and love. And I feel as if like I don't try to look at obstacles either. Like I just look at like situations like this to just like, you know, take a step back, analyze yourself mentally, and then just try to see what you can do to be your best self so that you can.
We'll be back on track with more sport. That's around 12:30 with John Khedika. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the ANC says in as much as it cannot interfere with the SACP's resolution to contest elections independently, it does not agree with the decision. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says the decision will have far-reaching implications for the broader alliance and the National Democratic Revolution. 10 members of the South African Police Service and the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department are set to appear in the Germiston Magistrates Court today. They face allegations of corruption and theft stemming from an operation at a shop in Edenvale on the 4th of June. And the United States could require bonds of up to $15,000 or 270,000 rand for some tourists or business visas under a pilot program that's launching in 2 weeks. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's still monumentally busy getting from Howick down to Pietermaritzburg this morning after this earlier truck crash. They've managed to open a couple of lanes, but it's still very much an active scene with the left lane closed, all that truck and traffic backlog being cleared through slowly. You will hit the wall as you come from Howick, sort of around the Sadara area, and you just stay in really heavy traffic all the way through. It's bad enough to have pushed some really big delays onto the road that links you from Sadara, coming off the N3 down the old road linking you to Pietermaritzburg, so a lot of traffic congestion that side as well. Staying in KZN, the N2 South, the breakdown of Spaghetti Junction has been with us all morning. Traffic from Gena Road side remains slow at a 4 level. Joburg crash, Mike 1 North at Corlett Drive, that's also been there a while, taking a time to clear. It's a really big traffic from Boysons all the way up into Melrose, and motorists coming south seem to be caught up in this as well, with a queue from Buccleuch interchange down through Sandton and into that Melrose area. Just a reminder, Rosebank heavy again, a lot of roadworks there, so Sticks and 7th in from Parkhurst area, and Jan Smuts particularly bad from the zoo, driving up into Rosebank territory as well. Probably a lot of that diverting Mike 1 highway traffic getting caught in that as well. Today, Cape Town, N1 into town, super solid, flooding before the Kubo interchange, backlogs from Brackenfell. Behind that, the R300 parks up from Stellenbosch Arterial all the way up through to join the N1 inbound. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Yeah, and darling, I don't like the story that you are leading with, eh? First it was beef, now it's pork. All of it going up. What are we to eat?
It seems like we're just going to eat chicken unless there's another avian flu. So we're just crossing fingers that there's no avian flu, right? So pork prices have surged over 9% since June last year. While we've been paying more at the tills, the move has brought some relief to the industry after years of tight margins due to high feed costs. Now, speaking to News 24, the CEO of the South African Pork Producers Association, Marlene Lowe, said the price increase is largely due to the foot and mouth disease outbreaks that led to beef price hikes. As consumers seek more affordable protein options, pork demand has increased, driving prices up. Now, certain pork cuts have even seen double-digit increases, and Lowe notes that pork prices typically track beef and chicken prices. Now, currently, pork carcasses are selling for around 35 Rand, up from the early 30s last year. That despite the price increase, pork remains in demand due to its affordability in comparison to beef. In the meantime, the pork industry has been spared foot and mouth disease outbreaks thanks to strict biosecurity measures. However, the industry has highlighted that it has been affected by FMD management zones that restrict pig transportation.
And this next story, explain it to me, Ntauling. What does Sibanye Stillwater want in relation to Russian palladium?
Yes. So Sibanye has operations in the US. I think it has mine and also has metals recycling operations within the PGM sector. And they've petitioned the US government to impose tariffs on Russian palladium imports, right? So they, yes.
As if Trump needs,
Right?
as if Trump needs a second invitation to impose any tariffs. Wow.
Yep. They've cited unfair pricing practices that threaten the long-term viability of U.S. supplies. Now, the company's CEO, Neil Furneman, argues that Russian palladium is being sold below market prices, particularly after the 2022 Ukraine invasion, and that tariffs would create a more level playing field for the US PGM industry. Now, this move could cause an increase in price volatility in palladium, which has already seen a 31% surge in spot prices this year due to lower SA production. Now, the petition adds uncertainty to the platinum group metals markets, with analysts forecasting a price increase this year driven by platinum's rally. The move comes as Sibanye, which operates in both SA and the US, reported its second consecutive full-year loss last year due to low prices, including a $500 million write-down of its US palladium assets. Analysts say if the tariff is implemented, it could lead to a global supply chain reconfiguration, potentially causing price volatility.
That time, everyone is petitioning Trump to drop the tariffs, and Sibanye Stillwater is going in the opposite direction. Hey, listen, Mr. Tariffs, can you hit these ones with more tariffs?
You can help us.
Anyway, it's funny in its own way. Lastly, Dowling, what kind of a trading day can we expect on this Tuesday?
So local markets on track to open in the green. Earnings season is heating up here at home, and today investors will be unpacking Nedbank's half-year numbers. In the currency scene, the rand starting the day stronger, this as the dollar weakens following Friday's jobs numbers. The local unit is at 17.94 to the greenback this hour. In the oil market, forecasters are flagging sluggish demand growth and OPEC Plus's latest decision to add more barrels to its combined production, denting sentiment, with Brent on the back foot at $67 per barrel. And then back to markets in the U.S., equity markets that is. In the U.S., futures remain in positive territory, with traders assessing more updates from corporate America. And then lastly, in Asia, a similar mood playing out on that front, with indices mostly in the green, somewhat shrugging off those trade jitters.
All right, Dowling, thank you for that. Dowling Lechela has kept you updated on business, economics and the markets throughout the course of the show today.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Yeah, indeed we are. That's just one of the platforms on which you can follow SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Let's go to education matters now in the Western Cape, where the Education Department is concerned over a rising trend in school vandalism and burglaries during the recent school holidays. With repairs expected to cost around R1 million, the department warns that these criminal acts are diverting much needed resources away from learners' education. Let's speak to the province's health minister. Let's speak to the province's Minister of Education, David Mania, who joins me now. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. And when we say there's a sharp rise, it really is sharp in comparison to last year, isn't it?
Absolutely. We had a total of 57 incidents this year at 46 schools. And if we compare that to last year, we had 45 incidents at 39 schools. So there's definitely an increasing trend. But I think what worried us most this year was that unlike last year, we had 3 major incidents which we regard as incidents where schools incur 100,000 Rand or more in damages. And I think that is a big cause for concern. And perhaps to give your listeners some flavor, I was looking at a summary of an incident report in one of the major incidents. And what we had perpetrators who stole, for example, electrical wiring covering 16 classrooms. They stole gutters, the outside lamps, the intercom. They broke all the fluorescent lights in classrooms. They broke into the girls' toilets. They broke all the sinks, stole all the taps. They broke all the windows and window handles in the boys' toilets. And the school incurred well over 150,000 Rand in damages in this case.
What are the patterns and trends that we are picking up? What seems to be driving this spike? These schools exist in communities, and one imagines that something is happening in those communities, either in terms of crime trends or other matters that may be at play. What's driving it?
I don't think we have a very good analysis of the trends. But if you read the incident summaries, it's clear that what is at play here, I mean, in the first instance is just sheer vandalism. For example, in another major incident, we had perpetrators just simply break into a school and vandalize a vehicle. There didn't appear to be any major theft. So I think vandalism is a big driver. But equally, it's clear that theft is a driver, either, for example, when you see personal, computers stolen, perhaps for personal gain, but also when you look at some of the major incidents, it's clear that sort of bathroom fittings, copper piping, electrical wiring is being stolen, and I strongly suspect that those items are being sold on the market for scrap.
So what are the implications of all of this vandalism in terms of the resources that you direct? Firstly, I imagine to some increased security, but also in terms of restoration of the destroyed infrastructure.
Well, the consequences, of course, are that schooling is disrupted when term time begins. You can imagine schools have lost computer equipment, electrical wiring has been stolen, bathrooms have been destroyed. Sometimes school feeding schemes cooking facilities have been destroyed. All of that, of course, disrupts schooling. And the second, of course, is, as you said, we're going to incur more than R1 million in damages, and that money should have been and could have been spent on our core business, which, of course, is teaching and learning.
Do you feel let down by your colleagues that are responsible in the provincial government, that are responsible for public safety, policing and the like?
Well, we have taken, I think, very bold action to protect our schools. We're investing about 11.4 million Rand in holiday security for about 424 schools. So we have a very robust plan to deal with holiday security. But ultimately, the conclusion that I'm drawing is that what really makes a difference, and I think you can see this in cases that we're aware of, what really makes a difference is not so much the additional security, but where parents step up to protect their schools, where communities step up to protect their schools, that really makes a difference. I mean, I visited a school a couple of weeks ago. It's in a very tough neighborhood. The school is safe during the holidays because parents have stepped up to protect the schools.
I guess the question I was asking was more in line with, is this matter being prioritized by those colleagues of yours in the provincial government? Do they see it as a big a problem as you see it, with the result that the requisite resources are diverted and directed towards arresting it?
So we do have very good cooperation with my colleagues in the Western Cape government and with law enforcement and the SAPs. The matter is prioritized. As I say, we spend an enormous amount of money on private security. In each case, criminal charges are laid, and we will follow up on those investigations over the next couple of weeks.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's David Mania, who is the Western Cape Provincial Minister of Education, the MEC for Education in that province.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
So what's in your food then? Let's talk about this particular issue before we go. The Healthy Living Alliance, HELA, is turning up the pressure on government to protect consumers' health by making front-of-pack warning labels mandatory on foods that are high in salt, sugar, and saturated fat. Through a nationwide series of roadshows, HELA aims to raise public awareness and mobilize citizens to demand urgent action on long-delayed food labeling regulations. Let's speak to Thulasizwe Simelane, who is Communications Manager at HELA. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. What is R3337, and why is it central to this campaign that you are raising at the moment?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and thank you so much for having me on your show. So this regulation is part of a broader attempt by National Department of Health to kind of improve the regulations of food labeling in South Africa. Currently, we know that the foods that we buy have labels, nutritional labels at the back of the packs. Now, if you're not a nutritionist or you're not well versed in, nutrition, it's very difficult to do the calculations and to figure out which food is good for you and which food might be dangerous for your health. So this regulation is intended to make it so that people are able to make quick, informed decisions about their food that they're eating. I mean, what it also does is that it protects children from predatory marketing. We know that a lot of these companies see children, who are often the ones who can make an influence on their parents, be the ones who are, attracted to some of these unhealthy foods.
So if I understand you correctly, if this regulation is ratified and other interventions are brought to bear, and actually the position you are campaigning for is to move those warnings in terms of the contents of, any packaged food from the back in small font to the front, alongside the marketing and the main branding of some of the food products. Am I correct in that understanding?
Yeah, well, partially. So the intention is not to move the entire label. It's to highlight the unhealthy ingredients in it. So you mentioned earlier that foods high in salt, food high in sugar, and food high in saturated fat. The regulation also makes it, important that people are aware that the food that they're consuming contain artificial sweeteners. So those are the three big ones that people will be able to identify quickly.
So what would the labels read like? And I know that we're still a long way off because of, that regulation, etc. But what's the typical phrasing in jurisdictions where this is done? Is it that at the front, the food product will say high in salt?
Definitely. So we call these also the warning labels. So what it would look like is a series of triangles, including the word warning. These are black and white triangles. They're easy to identify, and they stand out from packages. We know a lot of the times these attractive, colorful packaging can be quite attractive. So this is what researchers who did the research on the effectiveness on the various warning labels found, that in the South African context, this will be easier even for people who have lower levels of literacy. So this isn't just something that will help, upper class people. It's for everybody in South Africa. And I think it's our right, in fact, to be able to decide for ourselves what it is that we're putting in our bodies.
So why do you believe that this regulation has not been ratified? I mean, it's been mooted since about, April 2023. What's the holdup?
Yes, and that's a question that we want to know, Thulasizwe, is that we haven't heard much from NDOH on this issue. And we believe that the longer we wait, the longer the injustice of people being duped, quite frankly, into consuming things that are bad for their bodies. And so we're pushing for ordinary people to come and join us and let their voices be heard and demand, in fact, that these regulations finally be ratified. I think 2 years is a really long time. We know that things tend to move slowly, but I think there's been enough time now for the work that needs to be done to actually be done.
How do you gauge the level of public interest and engagement with the matter that you are raising? Is it a priority issue as far as you can understand in a country where, sometimes we are told that people eat what's available, while people understand the importance of, eating healthy food and avoiding harmful, products in food, etc. But ultimately, it comes down to food availability, and people will just eat what's available, whether it's high in fat, high in salt. For instance, in areas where the only food that's available for you at lunch is chips, that's what you're going to have.
Definitely. I mean, this is true. One of the things that we work to prioritize is food justice. And food justice also includes dignity around the food that we're consuming. I think it's really unfair if we talk about, just letting the people consume what is available to them. And the food space is a very complicated thing, but the first step, the most important step, is regulation. And regulations don't come all at once at the same time, but I think this is the first and very important step to kind of highlight the food that is available to people.
Yeah.
We say it's unhealthy, and some of them have labels that say they're high in various things, but have hidden nutrients of concern.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is take the first step in actually achieving food justice for people.
Gotcha.
And this is a very important step that we think people should join us for calling us.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately what we want is for people to have access to quality, affordable, and nutritious food. Join us on this walk. I think we'll get there faster than if it's just a...
All right, Zukiswa, let's leave it there. That's Zukiswa Simelane, who is Communications Manager at HELA.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Starting Joburg this morning with some quite heavy traffic on the Mike 1 highway. There's been a crash up by Corlett Drive. So coming through from Boysons on your way to Sandton, very heavy up through central Joburg and Parktown and Houghton up towards that Melrose area. Southbound also getting caught with a delay from Woodmead down into the Melrose area. So very heavy backlogging both ways through there. Roadworks popping on the R21 south towards the airport this morning by the Benoni exit. So a little bit of an unusual queue as you arrive down from the Tembisa side. Situation going to Pietermaritzburg from Howick is improving. The road was closed for a good couple of hours earlier this morning. They've managed to open 2 lanes at Town Hill, 1 lane still closed. There is an enormous backlog that we've been warning about to be processed through here. So from sort of Maryvale, Sadara area, the trucks and vehicles are just slowly sort of moving off through the Town Hill crash recovery area. There's a lot of traffic as well on the R103, the old road coming off at Sadara and making your way into Pietermaritzburg. Our advice for the last couple of hours is to be, if you don't need to be in it, don't get in it. Travel later once that big backlog has got through there. Also some queuing pressure just at Key Ridge as well on the N3. Looks like something's broken down there on your way through towards Durban as well. Now Cape Town, massive problems on the N1 inbound. There is queuing traffic from Brackenfell right through towards the Coburg interchange. That is a crash on the N1 before the N7, but primarily it's the flooding that's occurred between Sable Road and Coburg interchange. You're really heavy into Cape Town. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get through that one. The R300 queues from Brackenfell trying to get up and into the N1, and the N7 north out of Goodwood, same sort of thing. Big queues trying to get off the N7 and turn into that N1 inbound, and any sort of alternative route through the area is absolutely chock-a-block with diverting traffic away from the N1. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
We spend a lot of time looking for deals, but we don't invest the same time in our health. Your health buys you more time with the people you love. So who are you staying healthy for, and how can you improve your health? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that rewards you for living healthier with lower premiums and more cover. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guard Risk Life, a licensed life insurer, FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
This July, journey beyond the horizon with Chasing the Sun. 5 mesmerizing episodes every Sunday at 7:30 on SABC2. From 13 July to 10 August. Feel the thrill of the adventure, the power of discovery, and stories that light up the skies. Missed an episode? No worries. Stream anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. No subscription required. Chasing the Sun. Your Sunday nights just got brighter. Tune in to SABC2, Sundays at 7:30, or watch on SABC Plus on demand.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles?
At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
I do want to take one voice note that's reflecting on an issue that we covered earlier on about infant abductions that have been occurring in recent months and the psychological factors that may be at play in some of those cases.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. With regards to the conversation you were having with Simone Robinson, who is based at the University of Pretoria, in reference to the conversation about women who actually steal other women's children, and it's so ironic how there are those women who steal other women's children, but at the same time, let's take into account that there are those women who actually kill their own children or sell their children. It's just a difficult time to understand the psyche of a human being in our current times. Daniel here in Bryanston.
Yeah, absolutely. You are spot on. It really is complex. There are so many factors, and your juxtaposition of those two situations absolutely warranted in that particular context. Bond in Kabeja, good morning. Hey, my good friend, it's been a while, Bond, eh?
Yeah, good morning to us.
No bound
you listen every day, my friend. This is SAFM But I said I won't leave it. I'll scratch it. Okay, regarding this comment by Solomon Paile, Andre Bocelli had a tearful song that goes like, "It's time to say goodbye."
Yes.
This alliance has outlived its day, really, 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 for two reasons. In an earlier setting about the same issue, Solomon Paile tellingly said, the alliance is not with the ANC or SANCO, it's with the National Democratic Revolution. Mm-hmm. To me, that was the end of it, because it meant that there's nothing stopping them to have an alliance with the MK and EFF, because all of them are ultra-leftist parties that believe in a socialist utopian society. Mm-hmm. So this is dead. Lastly, this is natural from maturity. When a ship is slowly sinking to us, it's natural for passengers and sailors to abandon ship. The ANC is being abandoned. It's slowly sinking. Like in any other relation, friends or marriage or whatever, people will start abandoning if we are slowly sinking. That's what it is about. All other grounds are just excuses. Thank you.
All right, I've got to thank you for that, Bond. But before you go, is there something the ANC should take responsibility for in how this is unraveling? The SACP will say we've been crying about the reconfiguration of the alliance such that it becomes the center of decision-making, and we've been ignored all of these years, with the result that there's no other way but for us to go in this route.
Yes, it's natural. They should have done it long ago. As soon as we achieved 27 April 1994, to me, there was no reason for that. They should have registered as a political party and contested elections, because that was the first part of the goal, and not to linger on.
All right.
But because they're benefiting twice and being there and having their MPs, you understand? So it was beneficial. It's like an abusive relationship that continued for long. It should have ended on the 27th of April 1994.
Right,
thank you,
Bond,
Tulas.
thank you for your reflections. That's Bond in Kabeja Day. And that's how we come to the end of today's edition of The Morning Brief here on SAFM. Kete Motlatlana and the team on the Talking Point on standby, and they'll take over just after the news at 9 a.m., the news with Ann Musa. Thank you for listening. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and you've been briefed.
In our top stories, Ramaphosa weighs in on SACP contesting local elections, and 10 police officers set to appear in the Germiston Magistrates Court. Good morning. We start with news just in. 28 more suspected illegal miners have resurfaced at the Sheba Gold Mine in Barberton in Mpumalanga. The latest number brings to 546 arrested at the mine since last week. On Friday, 494 illegal miners were arrested and 24 others was arrested yesterday. Police say they expect to arrest more illegal miners in the coming days. Apparently, food supply has been cut to force those underground to resurface. The illegal miners arrested on Friday appeared in the Barberton Magistrates Court, and their matter was postponed to next Monday for further investigation. The ANC says in as much as it cannot interfere with the SACP's resolution to contest elections independently, it does not agree with the decision. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says the decision will have far-reaching implications for the broader alliance and the National Democratic Revolution. He was speaking at the end of the four-day meeting of the ANC-NEC at the Germiston Civic Centre east of Johannesburg. Last year, the SACP vowed to contest the 2026 local elections independently after accusing the ANC of having failed to reconfigure the alliance. But Ramaphosa says this will have negative consequences for the alliance.
As the ANC, we have no wish, nor do we have any intention to interfere with the decision that the South African Communist Party has taken. However, we disagree with the decision. This decision has fundamental implications for the strategy and program of the National Democratic Revolution and the alliance that has led the struggle for liberation in our country since the 1920s. As the ANC, we are seriously concerned that this decision to participate in elections in their own name and right will significantly weaken the forces for national democratic change.
10 members of the South African Police Service and the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department are set to appear in the Germiston Magistrates Court today. They face allegations of corruption and theft stemming from an operation at a shop in Edenvale on the 4th of June. According to reports, the officers allegedly seized cigarettes, took 30,000 rand in cash and 3 packs of Panados with 30,000 rand during the raid. Independent Police Investigative Directorate spokesperson Lizzie Shuping says the officers were arrested for trading in illicit cigarettes and violating immigration rules.
It is also alleged that the accused officers failed to record all the merchandise seized from the shop at the police station. The shop manager allegedly disputed the quantity and type of merchandise booked in the occurrence book to the station commander. The members were arrested while on duty and will appear before court. All arrested officers are constables and one sergeant and are detained at the Germiston police station.
The murder trial of a Limpopo pig farmer and his 2